This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. Did you put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Angelo Lombardi in the third chair.
I'm tired of losing at Pokemon. Time to try models.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of a quickling on a potion of speed, running away from a Zixaddle abomination down an icy hill. Nice. Today's edition is brought to you by Beth's. To Alex and Laura, wishing you a very happy wedding day, 18th May, and all the best for your future together from all the members of the Bromley and Eltham Tabletop Hotshots. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today, as always, our panelists are Russ Wiley Will-o'-the-Wisp Wakeland and Ultra Gamer Angelo Lafalamasu Lombardi. Let's begin. Issue number 1. A cultural icon is an object that represents some aspect of the values, norms, or ideals perceived to be inherent in a culture or section of a culture. Cultural icons vary widely and may include objects like telephone boxes, aircraft, buildings, or indeed ancient ugly miniatures. Question. Now a multi-million-dollar business, what was the name of the first company to ever produce official D&D miniatures, and or in what year did this production begin? Ugly Roper Russ.
Ooh, I'm going to guess Ralph Parth, but I think it's wrong.
Astral Stalker Angelo.
Oh, someone was before Raoul Parth. I can see the box. I'm going to go with two guys carving wooden dolls out of sticks.
Oh, close. It was actually granite chunks that they were carving. Wrong! First official D&D minis were made by Minifigs in England in 1977. And they weren't very attractive. Issue number 2. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines creation as a noun meaning the act of creating or producing. Whether sparked by a divine inspiration, spontaneous impulse, or blatant plagiarism, whenever one of us creates something, it has to come from somewhere. Or does it? Question. Although the exact number is probably impossible for anyone, even Dan Yarrington, to know, from the following numbers, which reflects the industry's best guess, according to Board Game Geek, at how many new games, on average, are published each year? A, 200 a year. B, 1,000 a year. C, 500 a year. Or D, 1,500 a year. Ticket to Ride Russ.
I'm going with 1,000.
Agricola Angelo.
1,542.
Oh, that makes one wrong. And unfortunately, Russ is as right as he's ever going to be. Between the years 2005 and 2010, counting only games that appear on Board Game Geek with at least 5 ratings, the average number of new games was 1,000.
Woo-hoo.
Well done, Russ.
Thank you.
Get you next time, Wakeland! Issue number 3. A jigsaw puzzle is a tiling puzzle that requires the assembly of numerous small, often oddly shaped, interlocking, and tessellating pieces. Each piece usually has a small part of a picture on it. When complete, a jigsaw puzzle produces a complete picture. The use of jigsaw puzzles as game components has been common for years and is an excellent way to construct a variable configuration board to provide more replayability for a variety of board games. Question. The jigsaw was first popularized by London mapmaker John Spilsbury in what decade? Candy Wrappers Wakeland.
Decade, huh? Well, I feel like it's, I want to say, I don't know, 1850? It seems like it's older than that.
Lovely Seaside Lombardi.
1560.
1760, which makes you both wrong, and I'm more confident in myself. Issue number 4. Tapping is a term used in a variety of ways in a number of games. Although the exact meaning varies, it generally either refers to the physical action of actually touching something or to the using it up of a resource of some sort in the game. In most card games, when a card is tapped, it is usually tilted on its side to see that it is used. Question. What year was the alpha set of Magic the Gathering first released at Origins Game Fair? Rada Russ.
I don't know, but I think we owe royalties now for saying tap 6 times.
Abashan Angelo.
1993.
Oh, I'm losing it. That's one wrong for Russ. And Angelo is, of course, he's a magic guy. So, of course, you would know. Forget it. Thanks for listening. Good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by GameSalute.com. Check out gaming news or find out what the new hotness is on Springboard. GameSalute.com.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And by Conquistador Games, focusing on immersive and thematic games. More details at cqgames.com.
And by Cool Mini or Not, the vanguard of a new genre bringing minis and board games together. CoolMiniOrNot.com.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And Wargame Soldiers and Strategy Magazine, making historical wargaming less scary and more fun.
Hello!
Hello!
Howdy!
Hey, and welcome to episode 123
That means 1, 2, 3.
of the D6 generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Angelo Lombardi, and I'm back.
Hey, he's back, Craig.
Back in black.
Thank you.
Back.
Thank you for returning, Angelo. We'd love to have you on the show. Mr. La Quinta himself.
I'm very excited. I appreciate the invite.
I would like to call you the COO of La Quinta, but I would call you the COO of gaming. That's what I think.
Always time for gaming.
Always.
There you go.
For those who listened last time Angelo was on the show, they know that Angelo, not only is he a bigwig there, flying around the country, checking out hotels across this fair land, but he's always checking out
and other lands.
And other lands, wherever La Quintas may be found. He's also constantly gaming on the road, just dropping in gaming stores, getting games in, and having a good time, right?
He's our itinerant gamer.
Yes.
Next week, I'm going to San Francisco, and we have a Thursday night 1,000-point 40K game planned.
See, that's awesome.
Your heart there.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Check your body parts on the way out,
Will do.
So in today's show, we're going to be talking about sort of every gamer's dream, like everybody's got one great American novel in them, Well, every gamer, we hypothesize, every gamer has one game they're trying to design to get out. So for one segment, we're going to talk about, what that's like, what we've all thought about, maybe the dream, and then I think Angelo's even working on a game or some such thing. We'll talk about that there too.
I think all the listeners are going to have to take their turn if we're going to keep doing those 1,000 games a year and keep that statistic accurate.
Exactly right. And of course,
get work done.
Later, we're going to talk about not really new hotness. I guess it's medium hotness. Dungeon Command.
Oh, it's not medium hotness. It's not new hotness. It's mildly recent hotness. You don't have to change the temperature.
It's a whole 7 months old. It's
but that doesn't change the fact that it's all of a sudden hotness.
It is hot. So we'll talk about Dungeon Command and why it's hot in our neighborhood and why it's great to play with your friends and your kids. Right, Angelo?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So up first, we have some little business together. First of all, contest. We're taking a contest break. However, that's because Craig, you're going to be doing some mad, crazy stuff at Adepticon soon.
You have no idea.
Oh yeah.
So let's just talk a few minutes about Adepticon, shall we? First of all, It's an amazing, amazing convention if you play miniature games of any kind.
In Chicago.
Okay, it's in Chicago. It is awesome. It is huge. It gets
next month.
Huge every year. I almost said huger.
Yes, it does get
almost
huger.
Justifies that kind of grammar. And it goes from, I think this year it goes from Wednesday to Sunday. So they're trying to make it bigger and bigger every year.
That's about a month away, right? It's pretty close.
That is less than a month away.
End of April, right? Getting close.
Less than a month away. Middle of April, actually. It goes from the 18th to the 21st.
Oh,
18,
yes.
19, 20, 21, 22. 5 days. 5 days of miniature gaming.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be primarily GW, but they are not even close to primarily GW anymore. There's all kinds of different game companies that are actually represented there. A little thing you may or may not be aware of, Wild West Exodus is going to be unveiled there.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of other cool stuff. And of course, the entire thing culminates and is focused on, in the only purpose of Adepticon is to focus on this one event Sunday night called the D6 Generation Board Game Night.
Right.
And so we've got all of our different friends, our corporate friends, donate games, and we slowly over the years we've been building up an awesome library of the best board games that we've had donated. But every year we also give away more than we put into the library. Don't tell the Adepticon Council that.
Oh, yes.
They think the balance goes in the other direction.
Right.
But
no.
Basically what happens is we get a bunch of stuff, we keep a couple, we give the rest away in wacky contests that go on all night long. Those of you who have been, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who have taken the time to listen, you've heard it before. Right now we're looking at Weird sent us a bunch of Evil Baby Orphanage sets. Conquistador sent us new science.
Awesome.
Game Salute is sending a crate. God knows what's going to be in that crate. And Stephen Bonacore of Stronghold Games just emailed me today. We're getting another copy of Survive to give away, Lost Temple to give away, Milestones, Little Devils and Crazy Creatures, his little filler games.
Oh, yeah.
Away, couple copies of Article 27, Russ's new favorite.
Hey, by the way, yeah, if you're at Adepticon, it's the best thing about this board game night, right, is that it's the end of the weekend after all that hardcore, brain-burning, awesome sauce tournament action, and you're just ready to chillax. There is not really a better way to chillax than Article 27 with 6 people just chilling out. It's a very relaxing, sort of fun little screw your neighbor game. 45 minutes, you're over. Great time.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these are awesome filler games. And that was in the order in which they responded. So if anybody's wondering why I wasn't number one, because I had to check the emails to see that everybody got mentioned in the order in which they responded. But anyway, and of course more. There's a bunch of longtime listeners will know there's a couple people missing, and that's because I waited till today to send these emails out. So these guys are all guys that responded the same day with this kind of assistance. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be action packed. It's going to start earlier than it has been. So it's going to go longer. And we'll probably close down the big giant ballroom again and have the people kick us out at 2 or 3 in the morning.
That's right. There's a big giant crate coming from Game Salute as well. So we got tons of games, of games, and maybe even more.
That's what's going to be covering our contest niche or niche for a little while.
That's right. Now, also, we just finished recording Lost Chapters, Book 52. Hey, Angelo, do you remember what we talked about?
I do. We really remembered, went back down memory lane and talked about miniatures, the hobby, where we started, where we went, and what it meant to us. And boy, it really makes me want to play with these models. I'm surrounded by my D&D miniatures now and looking forward to another weekend of gaming with the kids.
Yeah, you don't even need an excuse to game anymore. It's like Little Green Army Men. You just set them up and pew, pew, you shoot each other with your bows or whatever.
All these, yes. You can't have too many of these pre-painted.
You really can't. You really can't. So if you want to listen to all that, Craig, how do you go about getting involved with the Lost Chapters?
Well, I would go to the D6generation.com and click on the stack of books on the right is what I would do. And, of course, you can access the free iOS and Android apps. They go right on your phone, and they help you organize your D6G experience, including accessing Lost Chapters and other content that we may or may not be able to put up there at different times. We've had little things every now and then, and those all go up there as well. So it's like a constant feed of D6G.
Exactly right. And one of the cool things about the app, too, is not only does it show all your episodes of D6G and also the Lost Chapters, but there's also a cool little search feature in there, and you can quickly find different episodes. Let's say you're trying to find an episode that we reviewed, let's say, Wrath of a Chardalon or whatever. You can quickly find it that way and find the episode. Now, if you don't have the app with you, you don't have your phone, or you don't have the app for some reason, you want another way to find shows, you can go to the D6generation.com and look at the very top of the page. There's something called the game list. And if you click on the game list, a spreadsheet page will pop up inside your web browser that will list every single game we have ever reviewed on the show, along with a brief comment from Craig and myself, and then the episode number, so you can go out and look at the actual, along with box art as well, so you can see the box art and all that kind of stuff.
Russ, this isn't really the place for this, but you just reminded me, I meant to send you an email. I don't think the list is working right.
What's wrong?
Oh, no. Well, I brought up the list. I was at the store, I was about to buy a game, and I wanted your expert advice, and I thought, in 122 episodes, surely you reviewed Pandemic, but it didn't show up on the list. I'm assuming it's a programming error.
No, actually, it is on the list.
It is on the list.
If you go there right now, Angela, I want you to do this right now, because I'll go to your web browser, load up.
This is live, folks, without a net.
Go to the D6generation.com and click on that little thing, and then when the list pops up, has the list popped up for you yet?
Okay, I am looking at it. I am here.
Now hit Control F in your browser, and that'll give you a little search function, and type in Pandemic and hit Enter. He's typing. I can hear it.
Look at that.
There it is. And what are my thoughts there, Angelo? The very first column, this very big column in the paragraph. What does it say?
It says, the later we tackle civilization class should... Oh, I don't know. There's all kinds of information here.
You're not on the game list, though. You're not on the game.
No. I'm looking at episode 121.
No. You want to go to the game list.
Oh, there's game list.
There you go.
I am computer challenged.
Now hit Control F.
Oh, there it is. Best game we've never reviewed.
There it is.
Go off.
See, it's right on the list.
Fantastic. I see that this list, guys, is what you need for gamers. Even non-reviewed games are reviewed. That is what the hobby
cover everything.
See, that's how we do. Now, on the very far right, you will actually see an episode listed. That says episode 121, parentheses TFG, because in that episode, Total Fangirl, my wife Nicole, did interview the folks from Z-Man Games about the new upcoming version of Pandemic, even though we've never reviewed it. So that's how complete and detailed this list is, people. There it is right there.
We've
Boom.
done our best.
We have. That is the lengths we go to make sure you, our listeners, have all the information you need. Phew. All right. So now, let's move on. What's the time now for, Craig?
I'm going to guess it's time for Achievements in Gaming.
It is indeed in time for Achievements in Gaming. And Achievements in Gaming is brought to us by Engage, Starship Combat, and Days of the Conqueror, Dark Age Battles. New rules coming soon from Red Weaver Games. So what games have you been playing lately, Angelo?
Ooh. Well, of course, Dungeon Command as we get ready for this episode, and great fun, play lots of games quick, and really looking forward to expanding that outside of the 5 boxes. Star Wars X-Wing, but I've got to admit I haven't gotten the new ships, the Slave One or Millennium Falcon to the table yet.
Stop the presses. Now, have you bought them?
They're here. They're here. They're
achievement. That's craziness.
They're on the shelf, but I've not been able to get the big boys to the table yet, and that is certainly on my burning list of things to do. And the reason I didn't is I got sucked into the other half of Star Wars, the living card game.
Oh, okay.
Wow, just a ton of fun. I enjoy card games. I enjoy the living card game concept. Star Wars is a good one. I played that. Also, the Android card game. Russ, I think you played a little bit of that one yourself.
I have. I did enjoy it. Yeah, I love the Android universe, and unfortunately the Android board game is a little heavy and time consuming. But the card game gives you the taste without being too much time.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're playing a different aspect, the runner or the corporation, so the game can take a very different spin, which depending on the side of the table you're playing on. Star Wars does the same thing between being the Rebel Alliance or the Empire.
Right.
Played a little bit, and I'm going to clear with the no-hate moniker here. I've played a little bit of Magic the Gathering, a great game for traveling because you can play online using Moto and get the full experience without having to be in a game store.
Yeah, no hate, just a little disappointment.
Little disappointment. I accept. I own that. Later, we talk about achievements. I'm going to have to air my dirty laundry and lower your opinion of me even further. The Dark Moon Fair came to Dallas, and that is a traveling convention where they play the World of Warcraft trading card game.
Oh.
And while it's not really something I play, I enjoy going to cons and events, and it was literally right by the airport. I landed from a week of travel, shot over there, got a few starter games in at the Dark Moon Fair. You want to see cosplay, go to a World of Warcraft elf, and you can see the whole experience.
I can only imagine.
Get your eye poked out by any ears?
It's a little different, but a great community of more mature gamers, and it was a good experience.
Good.
I don't think it's a game I'll pursue, but it was a good experience. And while I haven't played it yet, I am getting ready to run a mini Pathfinder campaign.
Oh, nice.
And I'm digging out some books and preparing some ideas and getting ready to throw down in modified D&D 3.75, if you will.
There you go. Nice. Achievement for that, too.
Nice.
How about you, Craig? What have you been playing?
I was blessed this time around by PattyCon, which really lets you pad, no pun intended, out your achievements.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did there? Yeah, PattyCon is challenging, and it gets more challenging because as our gaming group expands, I feel bad because I can't invite everybody even in our little inner circle-y kind of gaming group. We went 20% bigger than last year, and the food went away even faster. But anyway, so that's if you're listening to this and you game with me, and that's why it's just craziness. as I mentioned in Did You Ever Notice in the last episode, was having a crisis of gamer faith.
Uh-oh.
And decided that at PattyCon, I was just going to play games that I enjoyed, and I wasn't going to worry about trying to get in any new things. I was just going to have fun playing stuff that was already tried and true. So I played Small World. I played Summoner Wars. I dragged that out. Dark Elves versus Jungle Elves. Of course, we had a game of Spartacus.
Nice.
Game of Carcassonne the Castle, believe it or not. That busted out like 3 or 4 times. I played once, and then it was going. Lords of Waterdeep, of course, with the D&D-ples.
Of course.
Hex XL.
Nice.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
And of course, Perudo. We ended with Perudo, so I don't know why that's here. And we actually did 6 games of Werewolf at the end of the night.
Wow.
There was still 9 people here.
Yep.
And so at 1 o'clock in the morning, we were playing Werewolf. And very rare treat for me, I narrated the first 3 games, and then our friend Ian from the Nerd Herders podcast narrated the last 3. And so I got to actually play, which is fun. And then I have been playing Dungeon Command up the wazoo.
Nice.
I played the Sting of Lolth, the Drow box once, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I immediately went out, and after a little drama, I picked myself up at Myriad Games.
There you go.
A box, the Heart of Cormier, which is the Heroes box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I played all week this week. And I've been, I had 3 more games, including a 3-way game, a 3-player game. Which is one of the great things I like about this game so much, is that it expands out to 4 players. And I've played a bunch of 2s, and I played a 3, and I can't imagine why a 4 wouldn't be just as much fun. So, and the way that it expands and everything is great. So I also played another game of Carcassonne the Castle. But
I don't have the Up the Wazoo expansion. What models does that come with?
that comes with...
I don't really want to know, actually.
I don't know what they come with, but I know where you put them.
Comes with 3 clowns, one of which is dressed like the Easter Bunny.
There you go. You knew that was
See what I did there?
Nice.
Never share
You know,
information.
I don't know if you know about this, Angelo, but if you have the D6G app, we can actually embed bonus photos in with the episode. So there might be a photo in with this episode.
There may be a photo of Angelo dressed like a certain holiday character.
Right.
I am very comfortable with my costuming. Sometimes I play a furry in real life. I admit.
Oh, wow.
Rabbit.
Oh,
Furry LARPing in the house tonight.
wow. There you go. Okay, so, Craig, where did you play those Dungeon Command games?
I played and bought the Dungeon Command games at Myriad Games. And actually, both the Salem and the Manchester stores were involved.
There you go. That's what's great about Myriad. You call them up and say, hey, I need a game. They're like, we don't have it at the Manchester store. We'll have it shipped up from the Salem store. By the time you get here on Tuesday, boom, there it is. Bam.
Easiness,
awesome service.
great. And of course, now, I mean, if they don't have it in Manchester or Salem, maybe they have it on Staten Island.
Exactly right. So check that out when you get a chance. Myriad Games. Now, I've been doing a little gaming too. I actually got 2 cons in, if you count PattyCon and then PAX East. So
I don't know if you can really count PAX East.
Oh, okay. Well, fine. So for PattyCon, though, I actually, unfortunately, Saturdays are hard for me. So but Nicole and I went out, had a great time, enjoyed great food, great friends, and got in 2 sort of party games. The first was Geek Battle. Have you seen this game, Angelo?
I have never heard of it.
Okay. So Geek Battle comes in a little tiny box, and it's basically Trivial Pursuit for geeks. Okay. So the themes and the questions are all geek related, like, video games and technology, and then comics, and then all that kind of stuff. And then, so just like Trivial Pursuit, you move around a board, roll and move, and you land on a square, and it gives you a category. But then once in a while, you'll land on one that's Geek Battle. And so Craig and Angelo, I'm going to challenge you to both to a Geek Battle right now. Are you ready?
Throw down.
Okay. How the Geek Battle works is, Craig, you're going to be starting in the Geek Battle.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a category, and you have to name one thing that fits into that category, and then Angelo has to respond by naming something, and we're going to go back and forth until one of you can't name something from that category. Okay? And here's an actual Geek Battle card. Ready, Craig? Name one of the dwarves, or name the dwarves that travel with Bilbo in The Hobbit. Go. Name one. Just name one.
Thorin.
Okay. Thorin Oakenshields 1. Angelo, name another.
Durin. No, Durin was the... Shoot, see, I'm terrible. I'm going to lose right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's how I did too. I got Thorin, and that was it.
See, I would have said Durin, but I think Durin was the father, wasn't he?
See, and now,
Boffer.
There you go. So Craig would have won that one.
Oh,
I
I'm a
had
terrible.
some depth there.
So I was up against Brian's daughter, and I got Thorin out, and she named one more. I couldn't name them more. She named them all. Just sitting there, rattle them right out. I was like, oh my
It's
goodness.
worse. I just watched that movie last week on the new Xbox Smart Glass.
There you go.
I am the worst geek ever.
I know. I'm terrible with that. I'm just going to admit it to the world there. I was not good with the Hobbit Dwarfs.
Now, the interesting thing about you guys were playing in sort of a central area of the house, so where the rest of the games were playing is at one side and the food was at the other, and I was pretty much eating nonstop. So I would constantly go back, and I would hear these games and these challenges, and it sounded very much to me like King of the Nerds, that TV show. That is on TBS right now, which is like all these competitions. And wasn't there were like physics questions and
Yes, there were. So like there were categories like math, and it would be all heavy physics, and it was like, how many, if a human body generates X amount of current, how many LEDs can you illuminate? That kind of thing.
Insane.
It was all over the place. So yeah, it depends what kind of, which was kind of cool because depending on the kind of geek you were, so you're trying to prove you're the best overall geeky knowledge person.
Is like King of the Nerds, which is the show that I almost got on, and then I didn't end up getting on, which is good because now I watched 2 episodes and went, holy crap, I would have been out on day 1.
Right.
And I'm like double the age of everybody on there, which is probably why I didn't get on in the first place.
Well, they got to have the token old guy though. They always do an Amazing Race, right?
No, I didn't see any token old guys. I just saw a bunch of really obnoxious 20-somethings.
All right. Well, we also played another crazy party game called FURT. Have you heard of this one, Angelo?
No.
FURT. F-U-R-T.
F-U. Sorry.
Yes.
Different game.
No, right. It comes with, so this one, I don't know that I can recommend. I mean, Geek Battle was basically Trivia Pursuit, but if you like geek trivia, it's kind of fun. FURT, I don't think I can recommend. FURT, I was hoping it would be a very short game. It was not. And it very much outstayed its welcome. It's basically this very colorful, cool artwork board, kind of like a Where's Waldo comic book board, a comic board with these little people on it. And then you move around the table and you have to do certain things. So it was just really wacky, sort of like crazy stuff. And there's a volcano in the middle that you pull paper out of for different categories. And I don't know, it wasn't my scene. It didn't work for me very well, unfortunately. So no hate, just not my thing.
1,000 games a year, Russ. They can't all be good.
Well, we got right. Well, we got through 2 of them there.
On average.
All right. So then I played another one. This one's from Kickstarter. It's been in my car for a little bit. Exile Sun. So Exile Sun is this space conquest game. But what's interesting about it is that it has these little cardboard control panels that each player has. And there's these little sliders in it that have different meters on them. And basically, when you go into a battle, you get a certain number of points based on the amount of fleet you have in, and you slide these points up and down, so you might defend your first ship with a certain, so let's say you have 14 points of energy, right? So you can put a certain amount of energy in defense for each ship and a certain amount of energy into offense for each ship. And your offense has to beat your opponent's defense on the ship you chose to target. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic. It's no luck really involved, except for trying to outguess what your opponent's going to do for putting his points there. Very interesting mechanic. We had a little rough start. Unfortunately, the rulebook has some misprints in it that can really send you down the wrong path. So if you do happen to want to try Exile Sun, don't try to learn it from the rulebook. It's one of those games where you got to go get the version 1.1 patch. Basically, go to Board Game Geek and download the latest version of the rulebook, unfortunately, because there is a big misprint in there. Then I did play Dungeon Command. Got 2 games of that in there. More about that later. Then I went to this convention called PAX East up here in Boston. Had a fantastic time at PAX. Really, the board game scene there is getting bigger and bigger. This time, so last year, the board gaming area was sort of part of the expo hall. This year, it got its own section and actually had its own massive line going in there to sign up. So, like, a lot of the big game companies were there. Like, GameSloop was there, and Plaid Hat Games was there, and Wizards of the Coast was there, and all those guys were there. Steve Jackson was there. Catalyst Game Labs was there. Lots and lots. Smirk and Dagger there. All these great games companies, Cool Mini or Not, all there. And that was sort of the board gaming area. A lot of other ones, too, I'm forgetting, I'm sure. I apologize to those. But then in the main expo hall, where you had like the huge, massive hall, you had like the giant Microsoft booth and the Sony booth and Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, and all these other things going on there. Guess what I see right in the middle of that floor? On one side, Mayfair Games, with a booth as big as you can imagine, and Privateer Press right next to them, sitting there right next to Microsoft. I'm like, oh, that's pretty funky. And it was awesome. And what's sort of interesting about this is the biggest secret in board gaming. I'm telling you right now, PAX East is the biggest secret in board gaming because there were several pre-releases there. Privateer Press had a bunch of pre-releases. Plaid Hat Games had pre-releases. They were previewing a bunch of games you couldn't see anywhere else, like they do at Gen Con, But because PAX is generally thought as a video game place, the lines for these things were not long. So you could walk right into the Privateer Press booth. If you've been to Gen Con, you know what I'm talking about here. You walk right into Privateer Press, there's no lines. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got the new brand new mounted gun mages that aren't due out for 3 more weeks right here on the shelf. There's nobody waiting. I'm like, I'll take that. Oh, you want the new DM screens for the RPG that aren't out for another 2 weeks? Yeah, sure, we got those too. I'm like, oh, my goodness. So I had a grand time shopping away there. And they were demoing like crazy. A lot of people interested, but just nobody knew to run there first. You know what I mean? So another great example, Plaid Hat Games had City of Remnants there. Now, City of Remnants is a brand new hotness for them. It's not even out yet. It's due out in the middle of April. And I got to play a demo there, and I'm walking up, and there's a gentleman standing there. He's like, hi, my name's Isaac. Would you like to play City of Remnants? I said, sure, I've heard of it. It sounds great. It's Plaid Hat, so you know it's going to be pretty cool. I'm happy to try it out. Turns out Isaac's the designer. Colby walks over, like, how's it going? And their booth's like, reasonably crowded. Not crowded yet. I'm like, this is great. I'm playing at City of Remnants. They had exactly 50 copies of City of Remnants, pre-released 2 weeks out before. This was a Gen Con that had been gone in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But at PAX, they were there till Sunday. There was a few copies left on Sunday even. So it's like a best-kept secret. Great way to experience new stuff, but nobody really knows it's there. Now, it's funny, I talked to Kurt Covert, and he mentioned that what was awesome about it was that the video game expo hall, kind of like the expo hall at Gen Con, shuts down right at 6 o'clock. But PAX goes till all night. People are playing. There's rooms with gaming going on. Well, the tabletop area never closed. So what would happen was Kurt's booth was right at the exit of the expo hall, and he would say at 6 o'clock they'd flood out, and he would just sell Cutthroat Caverns as fast as he could sell because people were like, he demoed, because Cutthroat demos really well, and these guys are all gamers, like their video games were like, this is cool. And so he had a great con also, and so they all had a great time. So for games there, I played City of Remnants, and then Kurt showed me this new prototype they're working on called Dread Curse, which, man, I think Smirk and Dagger has done it again. Have you seen Dread Curse, Craig? Have you heard about it?
I just saw your pictures. I follow your tweets, Russ, whenever you're somewhere.
Oh, that's so kind. So, so Dread Curse, I did tweet all these pictures. If you want to check them out, go to our Facebook page or our Twitter feed of the D6 Generation. Dread Curse is, so in Cutthroat Caverns, you're a group of adventurers, and you've just got to the bottom of the dungeon, and now you've got the loot, and you're going to try to get out, but you want everybody else to die. Well, Dread Curse is sort of the same thing. You're all pirates on a ship, but now it's time to divvy the booty, okay? So the ship's got... Now, each of you, though, is going to be a different role. So there's the captain, there's the cabin boy, there's the first mate, there's the cook, etc. But the thing about the game that's interesting is your role changes. So you're going to try... Each round, you're going to try to bid to be a different person, and you have different abilities, and you're basically going to get secret coins and put them in down face down. But some of the coins have the black curse on them, that if you end the game with the black coin, you're going to be out. And you play this really interesting game of sliding it around and trying to change it and psych your opponent out. Had a great time with that. I think he's really got another winner there. It's very much Cutthroat Caverns feeling, but with pirates, which is all good.
Whoa.
Also played my daughters. Our very first PAX I took them to a couple years ago. We went to the board game area to check out a game, and they checked out Run for Your Life Candyman, which of course is another great Smirk and Dagger game. And now it's a tradition. Every time we go to PAX, they want us to check it out. Even though we own a copy, we got to go check one out there and play it in PAX. So that was fun.
Nice.
And then last cool demo I got at PAX East was a game called The Duke. Angelo, have you heard of The Duke?
I have not.
Okay, so The Duke...
You've heard of nothing. Seriously.
I am terrible here. I've lost the dwarves. I've lost my game cred.
What are you even doing here?
This is what...
Ladies and gentlemen, my last episode in the D6 Generation after this.
No, The Duke is brandy. It's not even out yet. It was kickstarted last summer by Catalyst Game Labs, the guys that bring you BattleTech and Leviathans and all that. But The Duke is not like anything they made before. So think about a chessboard type game, and the Kickstarter was cool because they had leather. So the board is actually a piece of leather with sort of a grid etched on it. Now, there's no alternating colors. It's just a grid. And then the pieces you play with are basically wooden squares, and they're double-sided so that, and there's a little grid on each wooden square that shows how the piece can move. And there's some icons that tell you what they do. So, for example, if there's arrows to the left and right, it means that this piece can slide as much as it wants on the grid, left or right, like a rook does, right? And then if the arrows were up and down instead, it can go backwards and forwards. There might be some with diagonals, but then there might be some pieces that have... It can jump to here like a knight, but the patterns aren't all the same as chess pieces. They're all kinds of wacky pieces. But here's the catch. They are double-sided, and after you move the piece, you flip it over. On the other side, there is a different movement pattern for the same piece. So as you move around, you start... your attack patterns can change, and your pieces are all different. The other thing that's weird about the game, or interesting, is your pieces all start in a bag, in a sack. And the Duke, your main piece, like your king in chess, if you lose him, you lose the game. During your turn, you can either move a piece, like chess, and if you hit somebody, you kill them, or you can reach into the bag and take out a new piece and put it next to the Duke. And there's all kinds of crazy pieces in this game. And because the pieces icons show you how they move, they can do all kinds of wacky stuff. And they have all these expansions coming out that do all kinds of even more wacky stuff that are themed. So they have like a Marvel expansion, and all kinds of weird pieces. It's really interesting. Really interesting. A very, very, it's really an abstract 2-player brain burner, kind of like chess, but at a next level. But it's really interesting, really fun. And with the little leather mat and the wooden pieces, it feels like you're sitting back in time playing a really interesting little chess match. It's really fun. I wish I'd backed it because the leather board is only something that came with Kickstarter, which is too bad because that was cool.
And I'll have to look that one up. It sounds like something I'd be interested in playing.
If you like those kind of games, you would definitely like this one. Cool. And lastly, when I finally returned home from PAX, I got to Myriad, and our Descent campaign continued. We played yet another Descent battle.
How you doing?
Not so good. Not so good as the Overlord. I am failing miserably, but we're still having a blast. It feels to me more like a D&D campaign. So, but yeah, I'm still getting owned by my heroes. I'm really hoping that I can pull it out in the end here. And all that matters, though, Angelo, is I just got to win the very last battle, and then I win the whole thing. So
total party kill. That's what every DM ever dreams for.
That's right. So I'm okay with having a great time, and at the very end, if I kill them all, I'll be happy. So that's what I'm going for.
I wish you the best.
Thank you. And finally, I liked City of Remnants so much when I played it with Isaac, the designer there. And in fact, this game was so new that we're sitting there playing, and a guy walks up and goes, "Wow, I'm so glad to see the production copy. I'm happy with how the artist who did the game had never seen the production version of the game. He walked up, this is cool." So it was really cool to play again that early in its life cycle. And so I bought it right there because I had a blast with it, brought it back here, introduced it last night to a bunch of our friends, and we had a great time with it. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to playing that some more and getting it out there and seeing what people think. I really like it. It's basically a city building game where you're building developments inside of a city, kind of like some of those games like Sunrise City and stuff where you're building developments. But then you've got a bunch of guys with guns that go in there and kill people. So, that's not bad. So it's fun. It's got your city building, your development, your economic engine building, along with guys with guns running around killing things. So my kind of game.
Yeah, right.
So that is all the things I did for gaming.
And a lot of gaming going on.
I know. Well, you know what? It's expensive? Modeling. So my modeling's going to be short. But Angelo, what have you been doing for modeling?
Well, I have finally broken into Hordes.
Yay.
I'm taking a step away from 40K, although I did assemble the Forge World Angron Primarch model, which is a fantastic model. I think sticking with the collection, I've got to get all the Primarchs as they come and shelf them. They're beautiful, beautiful models. But I tried War Machine a few years ago. I couldn't get past the rivets and the smokestacks and the spindly knees. Hordes, however, it's a whole different ball game. The Everblight models kind of spoke to me. Picked up a box set, got them assembled and base coated. As soon as I get a little bit of a warm day out, I'm going to go hit them with the airbrush. And it's really being driven by that new Archangel model. And Russ, I have to ask, did you see the Archangel at PAX?
Not only did they have the one painted by their studio there at PAX in the display, but they had it on sale for the first time anywhere at PAX as well.
Was it enough to make someone play an entire army? Because it looks like it would be. I
was so close to buying it just to have it on the shelf. It is that kind of. It is one of the coolest dragon models I've ever seen. It is awesome.
I'm going to airbrush the little guys and get ready for that model. I can't wait.
This is one of the new gargantuans, right? So this thing's massive. Its base is the size of a CD, right? So it's just this huge creature, and it looks fantastic. Looks really good.
And I'll move up into soon-to-be modeling here from other as I get the kids in the miniatures and the D&D models are speaking to me again. I've picked up some of those 3D printer sets from RPG Now.
Oh.
And I'm preparing. I'm going to do it completely on the QT, so the kids get no exposure to it. I'm going to build myself a 3D modular board, throw it up in the game room, bring them up one day, hand them their D&D characters, and run them through a couple of scenarios, and really just blow their minds with miniatures on 3D terrain.
Nice. That's awesome. Very cool.
And that's my modeling.
Love it. I love it. What about you, Craig?
As of this afternoon, I had done nothing, but I went and I scratched out of my schedule a little 45-minute to an hour session and touched up all of my models that came with the Heart of Cormier for Dungeon Command.
I knew you could resist that.
I had to do it. There was a little inking that needed to be done, and I had to do eyeballs for everybody.
Nice.
I'm not the biggest fan of the D&D pre-paints. I don't think they're really the highest quality pre-paints out there, but it's a ridiculously small short period of time required to get them to be really nice tabletop quality. So
there you go.
Only my problem is all the artwork, like every one of the sets has a a core color scheme, basically. It's like all the models have this color on it somewhere, which any good army would have. But all of the artwork for the Heart of Cormier guy, purple. I mean, it's blue. It's a really nice royal. But
what is Angelo doing? What are you doing,
Angelo? Are you building a giant wooden badger?
No, I did that last week.
Oh. What is that crunching noise going on? Is that you?
Oh, I moved my Dungeon Command box, and that was the plastic squeaking.
See, he's
fault. My bad.
He's playing with his models even while he's recording a show.
He cannot stop himself.
He is building.
Craig mentioned eyeballs. I thought the eyeballs were painted, and I pulled one out. That was me.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, so you hear that noise? That's just Angelo going, I gotta hold the Hobbit again. I gotta hold him. All right.
I need to hold a model.
They're purple?
Yeah, they're purple, which is fine, but it's not. I'm a big fan of blue to the point where most of my armies end up with blue on them somewhere. So I may have to go back again
Make them all blue.
up all the purple with blue.
There you go.
But they look mighty nice, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do on the bases yet because I want to do something more than just the blank black bases. But that's what I've done, and the old 40K, not 40K, but the GW paint tray.
Yeah, right, the old one.
Some ones that you haven't been able to get forever.
Yeah, right.
Well, my friend Dave from the Nerd Herders, they got this kind of irks me a little bit vis-a-vis my Kickstarter issue because that guy had a laser printer, bought 2 more, and I still have seen nothing. 2 of my friends in the past 2 months have bought laser printers for themselves and have been cranking out a ton of crap and giving it to me for free. So I want to kind of kick the guy a little bit, but Dave is he made me at my recommendation. I was like, oh, make a little painting tray because I've got the big one, but make a little one that I could take with me. This is an awesome little painting tray that your Battle Foam Mini actually slides into.
Nice.
So it's like a cool little wooden painting table that you can carry with you, but it's just the size, about a foot long, and it's awesome. So I can take that with me and do all my little, 12 or 14 models? 12, I guess, for the Heart of Cormier. So that's what I did, nice. And that's what I used, and I had a fun time doing it.
Well, my modeling is very short. Too many video games this month, as I've been bemoaning the fact, so not much painting. I did buy the gun mages, as I mentioned, the mounted gun mages, and then also, so this plan. So my oldest daughter wants to model with me, right? And we're trying to do it on the weekends, but now we had PAX and the Easter's coming up, so it's hard to find the time. And I'm like, you know what? She gets up every morning early before school and tries to find time to do something. Like she'll be up at 6 in the morning, playing a video game or drawing a picture or something. So I'm like, I'm always up at 6 in the morning too. I should sneak out. We should just go do some modeling in the morning. So I think that's what we're going to start doing. So we're going to try to build my gun carriage for the Troll Bloods, and she's going to try to build she's got one of the giant constructs to build for the circle. So I'm going to try that out this week, and I'll see if I can sneak in some bonus time with her there. So we'll see how that goes. What about other? Angelo, what have you been doing?
I just finished reading Free Fall by William H. Keith, and Free Fall is a book in the Android universe.
Ooh,
so I played the game, and it motivated me to try it. Really a good book. A lot of times when you read the gamer fluff, you're reading it for the content and the story, but this is one that Mr. Keith has some experience as a writer, and it clearly shows. I would have enjoyed this book in any universe, let alone the Android universe.
Yeah, he's a good writer.
Yep. I watched The Hobbit on Xbox Smart Glass. It came to the Xbox, I guess, before you could get it elsewhere. So I tried the Smart Glass experience. It's a new interface that you could use your iPad, your iPhone, I believe your Droid to get additional content, but also to use as a remote control. It's not really there. I was trying to advance back to a chapter to show one of the scenes to my daughter, and I'm trying to sign in with my phone. I didn't remember my password. After a few moments, I put the phone down, picked up the controller, and used it like any other movie machine. So not really there yet, but I guess I see where they're going.
Uh-huh.
Ordered the new Lord of the Rings Quarriors game, which I just got notification shipped. And Quarriors, if you remember, you guys exposed to me when I came to Myriad Games the last time. Mm-hmm. And I've kept up with the expansions. Really love that concept. Fun, easy beer and pretzels game. So I'm looking forward to doing it with Lord of the Rings dice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I almost picked that up this week.
Yeah, I was at Myriad. I saw it today there, or yesterday there. Yeah.
I got sucked into Dungeon Command full force, but you're gonna have to tell us how it is when you get it.
Will do, and maybe I'll pitch it in my suitcase and bring it up in a couple of weeks when I come to visit.
Oh, there you go.
And lastly, I planned a trip to a con in Vegas in June. They're doing Magic the Gathering Modern Masters limited format in Vegas. I'm expecting to be the largest Grand Prix ever, so I've pitched in for that. I do love playing the limited format, which takes all the deck building and all the buying of cards and really just makes it a gaming experience. So that's coming in June.
That's a weird combo, though, like Magic the Gathering and car racing.
Wrong Grand Prix, but yeah, I see where you're going with that.
What do I know?
What about you, Craig? What have you been doing for other?
Well, I finished Caliban's War by the writing team that goes by the name James S.A. Corey, and oh my god, it was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm about halfway through it. I'm really loving it.
You are in for such a ride, and it's awesome, and it just lives up to everything in the first book. Leviathan Wakes. It just keeps getting better and better.
Now, are you hanging now? You want the third one? It's not ready yet. Is that the scoop?
Yeah, exactly. My problem, but it comes out in like 2 months.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. So not only that, but I've got good news for you, Russ.
What's that?
Okay. I rediscovered short stories and novelettes on the Kindle.
Okay.
Because I'd figured out you like a few months ago, I figured out like, oh my God, you can buy these. Well, the James S.A. Corey team have 2 on there.
Ooh.
One is The Butcher of Anderson Station, which is actually the prequel.
I know who he is because he's
Leviathan Wakes. He's the guy who's in charge of the OPA.
Oh.
Right? And you actually get to find out why they call him the Butcher of Anderson Station, and it's awesome. It's a really good little short story. Then there's a novelette called The Gods of Risk that actually features the female Marine character.
Oh, who's in Caliban's War.
Yeah, from Caliban's War.
Ooh, nice.
And what happens to her right after. So I haven't read that yet because I was saving it for after I finished it.
I got to go to Audible now. Are these on Audible? I got to find out.
Not on Audible, my friend. These are they're digital. You got to get them on digital format somehow.
Okay.
You can get them from Amazon.
Yeah.
Probably onto like any kind of whatever.
I do all my listening on Audible because I don't have a lot of time to read.
I'm telling you.
So the way I find time to read is I use audiobooks. Right. So you go to our website, right, and you click on the little Audible logo on the side, and then what happens is it explains to you how you can get a free Audible trial from us, the D6 Generation, and Audible, and you get 30-day trial and you get a free credit, right? And with that credit, you can get a book of your choice. And if you cancel and you pay nothing, you still get to keep the book forever. And it could be any of these great books like Caliban's War or the first one in the series or whatever you want. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, George R.R. Martin, you name it. Pretty much if it's a major book, it's on Audible someplace.
So I did that. It's a very low commitment. I got my free book.
Yep.
I stayed in for 7 or 8 months, got lots of credits, got lots of books, fell a little bit behind. So it was very easy. I suspended my membership while I catch up. And I know that I get to keep the books, and I'll be able to go back when I'm out of content and jump right back in the program.
Exactly. There's no penalty for like dropping out for a month and going back in either. It doesn't matter. You don't lose your books. You don't lose your account. It's fantastic. So
it's awesome.
Check it out.
Yep. Unfortunately, you can't get these little things.
Oh, it's too bad.
But yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah. So more of these little short story things. So looking for something that was similar to Caliban's War, and I couldn't find anything. I found John Scalzi, who has some really cool books out there, but they're done very weirdly on Audible, and they're not very long. And I've kind of gotten to the point where if I'm going to spend one of my credits, I really want a good, solid listening experience. And so one weird thing that he did do, that John Scalzi did, is he has this thing called the Human Division, which is a novel, but he broke it up into 13 parts. And every Tuesday, starting in January, he published e-published or whatever a chapter. So there's still 2 chapters to go. And so I've been doing that, and it's crazy because they're only 30 or 40 pages. So I'll buy it for 99 cents. It'll go immediately to my Kindle. I'll read it, and then the next thing you know, I'm done. I'm like, crap, 99 cents, crap. So I'm halfway through before I'm realizing, oh my God, they just conned me into spending $13 on a novel. Wow. So I'm a little bent out of shape about that, but it's a really good story, so I'm enjoying it immensely.
Good.
Speaking of listening, however, I have one of those author maps that's like a a visual organizer where you type in one author and like all these other names start swirling around it. And the closer the name is to the central name you typed in, the more likely you are to like that author. It's a really cool little website that our friend Cherie turned me on to years ago. And so I did that, and Elizabeth Moon popped up right next to James S.A. Corey. And I was like, oh, Elizabeth Moon, I don't know. I've already tried one of her series, and I didn't really like it. So I was like, oh, but I really I need something, and I maybe, and I'm a huge fan of Honor Harrington, and the main character is a female starship captain, so I'll do it. And I should have followed my initial instincts.
Not liking it?
It's called Vata's War series. The Vata's War series, book 1 is Trading in Danger. And literally for the first 6 hours, nothing happens.
Oh, that's the worst.
And the narrator is a very disappointing narrator.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, now at hour 6, things start to happen enough that I'm going to finish reading it. But listening to it. I'm not going to continue after this book, I don't think. The narrator, I just can't. Like literally, there's a mispronunciation, like a gross mispronunciation in the first 5 minutes of the book, which it was so bad I had to rewind it to say, like, did I not hear that correctly? And sure enough, no, it was bad. So I'm very disappointed about that. But and then finally, which is a little ironic, I know, but I'm buckling down, and I'm actually working on that Extra Life story for Spartan, which has been. I kept putting it back, and I kept like, oh, I'll have like a chunk of time when I'm not working for anybody else, and it just never turned out that way. I just got a huge, a top secret contract with FFG on a huge top secret project. And that was when I realized I'm never actually, like, knock on wood. I mean, it's an awesome problem to have, but I'm not going to have a period where I don't have stuff like tumbling down on me. So I just started writing it the other day, and I'm hoping that I can finish it in the next week or so. And that's me for other.
All right, cool. Well, I'll try to keep mine quick, but to follow up on the PAX East stuff that is not directly board game related, PAX East, quick couple of things. In prior PAX East, because there was a lot of video game stuff going on there, and it's a place they do announce some stuff. I like to check out the little mini. They have a very strong support for small developers there, in addition to the big guys. And sort of on the periphery of the expo hall, there's a lot of these little guys that building cool video games. And in the past, these have all been guys building out games for like Xbox Live typically. But this year, I'm telling you, everything was iOS and iPad. Everything. Even developers that normally had Xbox Live stuff. So there's definitely something going on in the mobile space, very heavy. I mean, everybody knows that, but it's sort of just interesting to see it being reinforced. Not a lot of big AAA video game titles there on display. I think that's because, E3 this year, we already know there's a PlayStation 4. More details are coming out. And Xbox, and Microsoft's already said they're going to announce the next Xbox. So my theory is all the big developers are working on titles they can't announce until the specs for those machines come out. So they're going to wait and they're not going to see that. So it's kind of a lull year for some of that stuff. Kind of a fun thing. So, a lot of people say, well, video games, they're bad for kids. They're antisocial. They don't get your kids out there and interacting with other people. So at PAX East, they have these dance stages set up not in the main expo hall, but like in the main hallways between events. There's like dance, and there's 2 speakers set up. There's a dance stage, and there's Dance Central, the Xbox game, sitting there in the middle of the stage. And people can just walk up, wait in line, and when it's their turn, they walk right into the middle of the stage, and they pick a song from Dance Central, and they dance to it in front of whoever's watching. And what'll happen is, since you're walking, it also happens to be near the food court area. So when you're walking around and you're tired, people will often grab some food, sit down in front of the stage, listen to the music that's playing there, and watch people dance. So my girls have Dance Central, and my youngest daughter's like, I kind of want to dance on the stage, Daddy. I said, but I'm scared. I said, well, tell you what, because it's important for kids to learn that they should be able to be comfortable with themselves, be able to kind of be silly in front of other people. I said, you know what, I'll go on stage with you, Kit, if you want to go up there and dance, and I'll dance with you on the stage. She's like, okay, let's do that. Well, while she's talking to her sister about that, we're also there with our good friends, the Flores family, and their 2 sons are there. And they decide, and their kids are the same age as mine, they decide that they don't want their dad on the stage. They're going to do this all themselves. So my oldest daughter, Rose, decides to go up by herself, and my youngest daughter, Kit, and our friend's son decide to go out together and do it. And so the 2 of them, Kit and our friend's son, Caleb, went out on stage and danced to Gangnam Style, and it must have been 60 or 70 people watching them. And they went out there, and they were nailing all the moves, and the crowd was going crazy. They were cheering them on the right, but they were just all, it was the perfect thing you think of geek culture. This all their support and who was ever dancing. I mean, anybody who danced up there, no one booed them or anything. It was like karaoke. They just cheered them on, had fun. And to see these two little 9-year-old kids just going Gangnam Style on stage, people were freaking out. Kit and Caleb were jumping at the end, all excited. They came up the stage, all excited to do it again next year. Then my oldest daughter went out. She nailed her song, did a great job. And then they all came after us. Like, they're already planning for next year. They're going to practice a bunch of songs, have a whole set ready, and they're all ready to go. So I was really proud of them for being brave enough to do that in front of everybody, and it was really, really a fun experience. And one more thing I just got to mention is I did have a panel. Jeff Engelstein asked myself to moderate a panel featuring several game designers, as well as Matt Morgan, who's a journalist. We had Christopher, who did Sentinels of the Multiverse. We had Jeff Engelstein, of course, and then we had Colby Dow from Planet Games on there. And the topic was talking about how video games influenced board game design, and had a great turnout there. Over 200 people came to the panel. It was really, really nice to see all those folks there. Got great feedback, and I just want to thank all of our listeners who came out to either participate in the panel, but just to show support for the D6G there, too. It was really great to see you there, and thanks so much for coming out, and had a great time doing that, too. So thanks, everyone, for that, and that is my achievements.
And Russ, I lived vicariously through you. I kept up with PAX through you and Nicole and your tweet, so thank you for the PAX secondhand experience.
Oh, we had a fun time doing it. It's always fun to tweet all that stuff. We got some great feedback on that, too. So thanks, Angelo. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Cool. Me too.
There you go. Thanks. Well, thanks, Craig.
Yeah, no problem.
And that's achievements.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Oh, our friends at Battlefoam are always inventing new things. Craig, have you seen this latest thing they got going on now?
At it again, Russ. Once again, the entire industry of moving your miniature from point A to point B has been revolutionized.
It has. It has with the new Magna Racks. Not
Magna Racks.
Yes, not Magma Rock. No, that's still a completely different thing. This is Magna and not Ragnarok either. That's a totally different thing. This is Magna Racks. Yeah. Right? So what these look like is they are vertical metal trays and like little vertical
It looks almost like the inside of a filing cabinet.
Yeah, like a display cabinet, really, of things. And what you do is, if you're a miniature guy who magnetizes your bases, you stick them to these racks, and this rack is exactly sized to go right inside of, for example, a privateer press bag.
Or a Cool Mini or Not /Infinity/Mantic bag.
Yeah, so let's say you're at a tournament, right, and you see people carrying their miniatures around from table to table with these little dowels that are holding trays apart, but they wobble and fall over. Well, these are metal trays. You magnetize your guys to it, and then you slide them right back into your miniature bag when you're done. It's like you take them out, you play your tournament, put it right back in your bag. How cool would that look? You would look like such the dude right there.
You're talking there is no wear and tear on your model at all. Normally they're ensconced in nice soft foam.
Right.
But every now and then that might, if you're in and out of that a lot, it might rub eventually off if you're not good with your seal coat. But now we are talking nothing around your mini but air.
Zero contact, baby. Zero contact. Now,
moving.
If you're still a foam guy like me, I'm still an old fogey. I love my foam. That's fine because they got you covered too. Let's say you're looking at these big giant colossals. Oh, well, they got the gargantuans are coming out for hordes, and like there's that big dragon thing. It's like you're looking at that dragon, right? The archangel, and you're like, I don't even know how that can be transported. They got you covered. They got foam for that as well. Battlefoam has foam for everything, no matter how big or ungainly.
Iron Kingdom roleplay bag is Russ's new big favorite.
Oh, I carry it wherever I go role playing. It's awesome.
But you know what? They're not the only ones who have role playing games out there, Russ.
That's right. But no problem because the patch pops to the front. You can switch it out.
That's right. It's
very
awesome.
handy.
And of course, the big giant Malifaux breach bag is coming out at Gen Con. You can pre-order on their website now.
And don't forget, if you want to go see them in person, this September 28th through 30th, they're going to be having DualCon, which is a 3-day Warhammer 40K and War Machine Hordes gaming convention / massive event.
Mesa, Arizona.
Yes, Mesa, Arizona. It's going to be the War Machine Weekend Qualifier. Grand prize winner gets a golden ticket to the next DEFCON. It's just fantastic. So just check all that out. Good stuff.
All across the board.
Indeed. And now, what's in the news? With a shout out, pimp out Alien Frontiers with rocket dice. I added the sound effect. They didn't really. Anyway, pimp out Alien Frontiers with Rocket Dice. Don't have Alien Frontiers yet? Go to Rocket Dice page on Kickstarter and pre-order now. It's actually really cool. I'm already backing it. Yeah, Wakeland's already backing it. They're little 6-sided dice, but they look like rockets. They're shaped like... Anyway, pretty cool. And now, the news. Up first, speaking of Kickstarter and our shout-out, our friends at Dwarven Forge. Now, those of you who have ever been to Gen Con have seen Dwarven Forge. If you walk through the vendor hall there and see those amazing layouts of dungeons, tiles that you can pre-purchase for the walls and beautifully painted and dripping waterfalls and all that. Well, Dwarven Forge has started a Kickstarter, which actually, with all the stretch goals now, is becoming quite a good value. So if you've always wanted Dwarven Forge, you may want to check that out. Just search for Dwarven Forge on Kickstarter. You won't miss that. Let's see. Oh, this is very exciting news. Privateer Press just announced today that the first Skull Island Expedition PDFs are up. Now, Skull Island Expedition, or SkullIslandX.com, is the Privateer Press's new writing division, basically. It's their version of the quote-unquote Black Library, if you will, doing digital publications. They've announced and actually are available now 3 novellas. Up first is The Instruments of War. And this looks really interesting. If you are a Scorn fan, for the first time, the secrets of both Makita and her people are revealed in the epic struggle for honor and survival in Instruments of War. So Instruments of War novellas available. All these novellas are priced at $4.99 for the PDFs, by the way. The next one is The Devil's Pay. And this is Dawson, who's a mercenary, sets out to capture a never-before-seen warjack. And he's trying to beat out his rival steelheads, mercenaries, or the horrific Cricks. Now, what's interesting about this is its subtitle is Prelude to Dark Convergence, and those following Privateer Press will know that the Convergence is the new faction coming up, so clearly this is a story about the first sighting of some of the Convergence warjacks, which is pretty neat. And finally, Moving Targets, also another novella available, and this is 2 mercenaries trying to avoid getting caught between the upstart war that's occurring again on the northern border between Khador and Signar. This northern border of Signar. Anyway. So if you're interested in learning all the fluff, and I've always wished that the fluff was more centralized for the Iron Kingdoms universe, it looks like Skull Island is going to help you out with that. That's Skull Island X. Let's see, other exciting news. Now, this is pretty exciting. You don't often get to see a board game get a lot of play on the video game websites, but Plaid Hat Games did. Those attending PAX got to see the big banner at the Plaid Hat Games booth announcing that they did indeed get the rights to BioShock, the board game. And they've already got components on display now on their website, just announced yesterday, along with the designer, who is the same designer as City of Remnants. Wakeland's really enjoyed it. Well, you talk about yourself in the third person now? Very strange. Anyway, yes, Wakeland is enjoying City of Remnants. So this designer is very exciting to know. And let's see a little summary here. Let's see, BioShock Infinite, the Siege of Columbia board game is based on the exciting BioShock Infinite video game set during the series of events. As the video game, players take the role of the Founders and the Vox Populi faction. So basically, it's sort of a war game of the Founders fighting the Vox Populi. It's kind of neat, though, because the 2 main characters of the game, Elizabeth and the main protagonists that you play in the video game, are third party. You don't get to play them, and they run around and just kind of causing trouble. And it's up to 4 players playing different factions fighting for control of Columbia. Components look fantastic, and even if you're not a BioShock fan, the steampunk art style may just draw you in. Other news, Tabletop, that web series that appears on YouTube with Will Wheaton, got renewed for the 2nd season, and indeed the first episode just went live today, starring the game Formula D. If you've always wondered how to play that game, tune into Tabletop. A little bit of sad news here for longtime fans of the Star Wars video games. LucasArts is closing its doors forever. Since taking control of the company, Walt Disney just announced that they will be closing LucasArts, the video game studio, and be farming out the license to other studios. This is sort of sad news, but Wakeland pointed out to me earlier that he doesn't remember the last good LucasArts game. Nope, haven't been one in a while. What about Knights of the Old Republic, or maybe Lego Star Wars? All by the people. Good point. Maybe he's right. Maybe the farming out thing's not a bad idea. Anyway, sad to see LucasArts goes. They did make some great games back in the day. And finally, this is sort of very exciting news and kind of a sign that geeks are getting larger in the world. Got a press announcement today from the folks at Geek Chic. You go to con, you know Geek Chic. Geek Chic are the guys that make those amazing gaming tables that look like normal dining room tables, but then sort of slowly transform into a gaming paradise with little pockets and stands to hold your D&D books and all kinds of crazy things, or a way to put your entire board game out and store it under the tabletop. All kinds of great things. Apparently, these guys are going to be on Shark Tank. Yeah, the major network television reality show where people come on and small business owners come on and look for investments to kind of grow their business. Well, apparently Geek Chic is going to be on Shark Tank this April 14th from 9 to 10 p.m. That episode, they'll be on it. They can't announce what happens, of course. You have to watch the show to see. But it's pretty exciting to see a geeky company getting on a major network television show. And that's what's in the news. Well, now it's time, as usual, to talk about our friends at Conquistador Games.
Conquistador!
Thank you, Craig. And their Kickstarter, which is winding now, but there's a few days left when you hear this, so check it out. Going over to Kickstarter and search for War Stories. Now, this is an awesome-looking...
Red Storm and Liberty Road.
Yeah, there are 2 boxes for this thing, Red Storm and Liberty Road. One chronicles the adventures in World War II of the Americans fighting the Germans. The other one, of course, is the Russians fighting the Germans.
Everybody fighting the Germans.
And again, this is this really cool board game that's very, very fast to play. All the rules are really taken care of with really cool graphic design and card play and components.
Be a miniatures game too.
And that's right. You can replace all the tokens with your 444 scale or 144 scale or 258 scale models you've lying around. So anything from Flames of War, other games, plop right in there. They'll look great on the tabletop. And
pick up models on the Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, we're pre-painted too if you want to go that route. And it's really got a really cool deck building, sort of miniature building system where you build your deck and you buy the components and the artillery and the support and the war gear basically you're going to have for your side. And then you're going to be able to play and go through battles, and it's going to be very fast, very furious. The board size of the squares take care of how far you move in difficult terrain or easy to train. Not a lot of complicated rules. Very fast, very fun. I really want this one, Greg.
I know. You've been talking about it a lot. And you know what the whole game ends up doing?
What's that?
It tells a war story.
It does tell a war story.
It tells a quick and bloody war story.
And don't forget that our friends at Conquistador are not new to this game business. They've got quite a nice little stable of games, including The New Science, which is a great game for learning all the major historical figures in science and discovery.
Age of Enlightenment.
Yeah, Age of Enlightenment. All kinds of great stuff. So Craig, if people want to find out more about Conquistador games, where do they go?
Well, if you're looking for more about Conquistador, you want to go to cqgames.com.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Welcome back. And since Angelo mentioned to me while we were prepping for the show, Angelo said, I don't know if you know this, Russ, but I'm working on a game, right? And that got me thinking. I think kind of like every American's got one great American novel in him somewhere is sort of the theory, right? Maybe not a good one.
Saying that every gamer has one great game.
I think every gamer feels like at some point they have a desire to build a game. I think.
Now, I want to divorce this from Angelo, who I think could probably make an awesome game, and say that I agree with you that every gamer thinks they might have a really good game in them. But if you just think back to some of the hammerheads that you've had to fight off over the years, I think the operative term here is thinks.
Well, just like the novel, right? I'm sure everybody who thinks they have a novel in them,
thinks they've got one great novel.
Yeah, they think.
It's so true because while I think I'm onto something this time, this is not my first rodeo. And at least 4 other ideas have been shredded in the bin, and I'm too embarrassed to ever speak of them again.
And those were rodeo games, Angelo?
Yeah.
That's fresh and new genre, really.
Right, it is.
Mental note, rodeo game. I'll get that copy ready before this airs.
Right. Well, that's brilliant. Well, let's talk about that. So when was the first time, you ever... everybody's first time, let's go around the table here. What was your first time that you ever felt the need to make up game rules?
I did not know this was going in this direction.
Yes, the very first time.
I'll get the ball rolling, Craig, while you think of yours. Because long before the idea of a mechanic or a game, for me it was world building and rules in RPGs. Because that's really where I got my start. Before BattleTech got me into miniatures and board games, it was D&D and the red box, the blue box, and there just wasn't enough content. So we consumed stories and ideas and television shows and we created entire worlds to a point where we're a bunch of number geeks that loved Excel. We created our own RPG. We called it Swordfire.
Oh, nice.
And half of a game night was one combat. There was a table for everything, how long it take to draw a sword based on the length of your blade. No, we loved it, right? We were statistic-heavy, combat-centric. But I know if someone else had looked at that game set, they would have thought we were absolutely insane.
Now,
and that was 30 years ago, 25 years ago or so.
So now you started with D&D. So what compelled you guys to try something, make your own thing instead of playing just another game of D&D that day?
We probably played for 12 years, once or twice a week, and we exhausted and we got broad. And our gaming style, our RPG style, is one that's very creative and intense. And as the dungeon master, I don't believe in constricting the group. Right. So if the energy was going in a place that the game or the rules or even the world didn't take us, well, we wanted to go explore it anyway. Oh, cool. And that meant that we didn't want to be contained by any rules. We invented a magic system that was imagination-based. If you could conceive it and describe it, we would roll. And the more you put into it, finding components, taking time, describing the logic that would make the magic work, the higher your percentage chance that the spell would go into effect.
Oh, wow. And
you would tell us what you wanted to have happen, and the more explosive, if you will, the result also made the spell more complicated. So it was always, rules for us were just like the monster manual. It was a place to start.
Oh, nice. Now did you how old were you guys when you did this?
I got exposed to D&D somewhere at 8 or 9 years old, and probably early teens is when we realized that there was no reason to be contained. So
nice.
Probably, I'm going to guess the time I was 14 and 15 and I should have been thinking about girls and sports in school is when we were creating rules and worlds and concepts.
Nice. See, there you go, taking over the planet. So that's nice and early. Craig, you want me to go next since you were still thinking about your earliest?
I'm still thinking.
I can go. Go.
I'll go.
You go.
If we're going to throw down, fine.
Let's go.
I had all these different D&D minis, the lead ones, and of course not enough to really make an army. But I remember when those army scale rules first came out, and the box came with all those chits. Mm-hmm. What was that called? Battle
System.
Yes, Battle System.
There you go.
I think 85 and 89.
Yeah.
There you go. And I was so excited, and I got it, and I punched them all out. And this was my first chit game or my first mini game, war game, anything. And I could not make sense of the rules. And so I just made my own up. Nice. And it was all about just rolling the dice that I had from the D&D little box set that I already had. And it was oh yeah, it'll be, and it was some sort of strange, completely unbalanced mixture of D&D and what vaguely I could figure out from the rules. And I just wanted to use all those little chits so I could set up my little armies and have them all marching across the tablecloth that was all lumped up to make it look like hills.
Nice.
That's really, so I did that when I was very young, and then I did things like building or sewing huge life-size medieval pavilions together and things like that. So that didn't leave a lot of time for game design. And my first real adult effort at game design came from when Dave from the Nerd Herders podcast and I tried to make a 28 millimeter, our own version of Inquisitor, but with more skirmish rules that it's sort of tied to the stat lines of 40K, but it was a whole new rule set that had a whole new way of figuring out how much action each guy could get based on their initiative, and it was random and it was a lot of fun. Now we actually even had a tournament of it back in the old Daka days, and we loved it, and I still have it all in hard copy. That computer's long dead. And it was, the thing about it was we built it based on the GW system or stat line. So there was nowhere for us to go with it. And every now and then, every few months, Dave's like, hey, we should really do something with that. And I'm like, what are we going to do with it? It's the core, all the mechanics are ours, but all the core elements of it are GW 40K. So there's really nowhere to go. So it was a lot of fun, and a lot of people had a good time with it, but there wasn't anywhere that it could go, I guess, is what I'm saying.
There you go.
So that was my first real effort in game design.
I'm going to use this moment for a D6 public service announcement.
Oh, here you go.
If there's a parent at home listening to this podcast thinking, should I allow my children to play games? The battle system in 1985, I was 14 years old, was the reason I learned how percentages work. Remember that, Craig?
Yes.
You would roll on a table, and it would tell you 10 or 15 or 30% of your forces were wiped out. And I had no idea what that meant. So I went to my aunt.
I did not learn.
She taught me how to do that on a calculator so I could play the game, and their education occurred and propelled me to onward and upward in math. So parents, let your teachers play games.
And you mentioned you put everything on your new RPG system in Excel. And I remember from the first time you were on the show, you mentioned that the reason you did so well at La Quinta was because of your knowledge of Excel.
Yep, BattleTech macros and creating a mech generation macro system in Excel got me into the corporate office and moved me up the career path. What great memory. That was, 2 years ago we had that conversation.
It was, yes. Well, hey, applied technology always impresses me, Angelo. That's awesome.
All right.
So my very first, so this is weird. So sort of like you, Angelo, my earliest gaming was Dungeons & Dragons. I started around age 11, and my brother and I played it like incessantly. We played it all the time. And whenever we moved, my dad was in the Army. So whenever we moved, we'd use Dungeons & Dragons to make new friends. And this is back in the early 80s when Dungeons & Dragons was hot. So there was sort of that, that parental backlash, but it was a parental backlash because it was so popular, kind of like the video game backlash of the late 90s, right? So everybody played it. So there wasn't this sort of hyper nerdy thing going on back then. Like there were like hard rock kids going to high school wearing Dungeons & Dragons t-shirts they bought from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. That was the era, just to give you. Sears and Roebuck, that's pretty flashbacky. Anyway, so my brother and I one day, I don't know where we got this idea. We had never played any games besides board games and Dungeons & Dragons. We just decided one day we dumped out all of our plastic army men, and we had lots of these things, right? So we had all the plastic. Remember the little green army men from Toy Story, all those guys? The flamethrower and the minesweeper and the bazooka guy and the machine gun dude. And then we had all the plastic Jeeps, too. We had the plastic Jeeps. We had the plastic tanks with the rotating turrets. We had all that stuff. And we had a bunch of blocks. We decided we were going to make a war game out of these guys. And I don't know where we got the idea, because looking back on it now, it makes total sense. But we actually decided that the way to measure range and the way to move guys would be all based on inches. And then we decided that every guy needed a card for their troop types. We took 3x5 cards out, and we wrote down stat blocks for all the guys. And we had never played this is way before War Machine, or we'd ever heard of 40K or anything like that. This is like 82. So we did all this stuff. We made an entire game. We had templates for the bazooka blast, which wasn't really logical, but we did that. We thought that'd be cool. We had the grenade thrower guys. We had the minesweepers with mines, minefield cards, did the whole thing. It was a lot of fun. I don't remember really the mechanics much. I remember all the stuff. And I'm sure it was a terrible game, but we loved it. And it put a rule set around Army Men. So I don't know why we got that idea, but we just did. But I'm weird, I guess. I did that from my brother and I. And later in life as an adult, when I ran the Daka Daka store, we thought it'd be fun. We had this crazy idea that it would drive sales on certain products if we had events centering around a single model line. So we were like, ooh, if we invented a game where all you used was dreadnoughts, we would sell lots of dreadnoughts. And this is about the time when GW started releasing dreadnoughts for every faction. So we're like, oh, let's do that. So we came up with this game called Dreadnought Arena Combat, and Craig made this fantastic arena. I came up with the rules for that. And then we started making other events like chariot racing and jousting and all these little things where people could just crank out one or two models and get them painted and do these events. And they were kind of silly rules that were sort of loosely based in the GW stat block, because that's what all the models had. And that was a lot of fun. But I've never really been driven to build my own game and try to sell it or take it to the next level, if you will.
Are you sure that Rick Priestley wasn't in New Hampshire on holiday, saw you guys playing in a sandbox, made some notes, went back and got 40K up and going?
He may have. Well, that time, actually, that was in Germany. When my dad was stationed in Germany when we made those. So he could have been on vacation in southern Germany.
Even closer?
Yes.
Because remember the early 40K, right? The little stat block looked like an index card, templates for grenades and missile launchers. You just described GW without needing to paint your models or assemble them.
Yeah, well, yeah. So there you go. I'll take credit for that, Angelo. You can write that down.
We'll make sure to ask Rick next time we talk.
Yes. Did you ever see two little kids playing, with Green Army Men with cards?
This Dreadnought Arena sounds intriguing in a world where Forge World has some of the most stunning Dreadnought models.
Oh yeah.
This is a ripe time for a comeback.
We
actually took that to Games Day.
We did, and it's funny because that used to be on the Daka website, the rules for that. And to this day, once in a while, about once every 6 months, I get an email from somebody who's like, there used to be these Dreadnought Arena rules on your old website. Do you still have those lying around? And I honestly, not really sure where they are anymore. but yeah, people used to really like it. People liked the game. It was fun. It was a little slow and clunky, but it was fun, and it sort of worked with the different dreadnoughts, and they all sort of had special rules, and the Talos could be in there from the Dark Eldar and all that stuff. It was kind of neat.
Any thought to putting that up on RPG now and letting it live a second life?
Well, the problem is I would, except I think GW would hunt me down and kill me.
Yeah. I guess you'd have to make it non-IP infringing.
Right. Yeah, and then it just turns into a giant robot battle game, which are a dime a dozen, I think, maybe.
That is fair. Fair point.
But so that's that. Now, have anybody ever done? I guess it sort of counts as this. What about expansions? Like, I think most gamers probably get started with this, like tweaking their favorite game, which I guess we kind of described. But Angelo, have you ever just kind of? You said you kind of built your own RPG. Have you ever kind of just tweaked the game and like, what, we need to refactor this rule set because it would make it better?
Yeah, I've got many incidents of board games and miniature games. I'll start with an RPG one that really comes to mind because I think it was our most aggressive and longest living example of this. There was a series of books, and I don't remember the name, but group of gamers, I think they were college students, got together and they kind of passed out and they woke up and they were in the world as their characters.
Yes, that was Guardians of the Flame. Guardians of
that was
the one where the crippled guy comes back as a dwarf.
Right.
Yes.
That was the series.
Yes.
Talking to the right guys.
Yeah.
And we were inspired by that and we wanted to try it.
Yeah.
So we're obviously our original system, the crunchy combat swordfire system, wasn't what we wanted to do. So we went through and we were looking at GURPS and we were looking at D&D and we were really trying to work on something that worked for us. And we actually used the shortly run James Bond rule set.
Oh, I played that game. Yes,
right. It was simple and allowed us to bring modern hardware back on our trips, and we ran this for probably over a year, and really completely converted the James Bond universe into modern technology in a medieval environment, and had to scale monsters over. So really not an expansion, but certainly reskinning a game.
Yeah.
Now, our most of our expansions were tied at that point where we were really big into fantasy and 40K, and before Titan Legions was Epic, right? We played a lot of Epic, and we were always creating a way to go from Epic to 40K, or from Man of War, the earlier ship battle, to fantasy. So we were, whether you call it an add-on expansion or just tying the two games together, two ships would clash, we'd run over to this table and we'd play a boarding action and run back and play the naval battle.
Yep.
Or you'd take a snapshot. We had a small square that was the dimensions of a 4x8 table. In the middle of an epic battle, you would put that square down on the table, and whatever was in it, you would then replicate on a 40K board, even if it was not equal points,
right.
And then you would fight that small battle to affect the epic table. So that we did an awful lot of that. I don't know that quite fits the question, but it was us expanding our game rules into something we wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. Craig, you have plenty of examples of that too, right?
I just love campaigns.
Yeah.
I love working on campaigns. I love coming up with campaigns. When you came up with the XCAM brain cramp. XCAM, thank you. With the XCAM, I loved then redoing that for a bunch of different games. So, we worked on, what was the first? Was that War Machine? Was the first XCAM?
Was it War Machine? It might have been Flames. It was War Machine, I think. I think it was War Machine. Yeah.
And I wasn't really into War Machine.
No, it was Call to Arms. Babylon 5, I think.
Was it?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I think yeah.
Yeah, I played Call to Arms before I played War Machine. I was still in my anti-War Machine phase.
Okay. Okay. No, I know that we did a Call to Arms, and that was the one that I was involved with a lot.
Yeah.
But I thought you had done a lot of work before that.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. But Did you try it? Because we were doing a lot of campaign stuff with Flames of War. You mentioned that, but
Yeah.
we were mainly playing in other people's campaigns in our brief flirtation with Flames of War.
Right.
Brief, expensive flirtation.
Yes.
So I love doing that, and then I'll still do that to this day. Just like the little Dust mini campaign that I came up with a few months ago. I loved doing that. That was like 1 week of furious design and graphic design and coming up with the ideas on how everything will work together. And so I'm quite up into games that I can easily make a campaign around. I did it in last spring. I did it for Spartan Games, so that was cool with Uncharted Seas. And so I mean, I really like giving structure to my mini games. And since we're not really in an environment anymore where a league of anything I'm really interested in playing is going to last long, I've found that my best bet is these various types of narrative campaigns, which I love to put together. And I'm not a big fan of a lot of paperwork or bookkeeping. And so I either make the bookkeeping part of the campaign fun with the graphic design and everything, or I try to keep it to a minimum.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I do the same thing pretty much. You mentioned the XCAM already, but the other things I like to do is the mega battle rules, like we just did with Dystopian Wars and Dystopian Legions, right? And Angelo, you mentioned the same thing, right? You want to make the different games interact. So you want your Battlefleet Gothic to affect your 40K, right? Or your Man of War to affect your Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and so. Coming up with a system where you can have a table of Man of War going on at the same time as a ground fight, is just awesome. And so those kind of things, extending the game and doing just really, really crazy things with it is just part of the fun of that.
And I saw homebrew that I wish I had done. And it's funny, it came around again. Excuse me, we were talking about it. Do you remember the game Dungeon?
Yes, it just got re-released, actually.
Yeah, I just had to look over at my shelf where my copy is sitting there. I blanked on the name for a moment. Yep. So a friend of mine was really into that when he was younger, but you run out of levels. Mm-hmm. So he went and designed more maps and cards, and I think he took I don't remember if it was level 12 or 14, but he just kept going. Right, bigger monsters, bigger treasure, and cut them all to fit, and got the whole thing worked out where you really felt like you were playing past the game, and it felt like it could have been an expansion. It was done well, it played well, and there's not much to balancing that game. It's got big spikes in it already, so you didn't feel like anything was off. But boy, it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, Craig, have you ever had the desire to actually get a game published?
I have not. I mean, every now and then I think it would be wicked cool if we had done something along, if we had somehow differentiated the Inquisition skirmish game that Dave and I had come up with. And I do think that there's a lot to recommend itself of in that rule set that we did. If we could just wrench it out of the GW, or wrench the GW stat line out of it. But I mean, there's so much, other stuff going on in life, and right. It was. I think it was a much more of a bug in Dave's bonnet that he really wanted to try to get it published, whereas I was more like, I don't think it's ever going to happen, and it'd be nice if it did, but I don't think so. So, I mean, I felt the itch a little bit, but I've never really tried to scratch it.
Yeah, me neither. I've always felt the desire to, like, whenever I came up with the rules for something like Dreadnought Arena, I just put it on the internet. I didn't really think of ever trying to publish it or anything. But Angelo, have you ever had that urge?
I have that urge right now. In my own defense, I'm going to say that I did not sit down to create a game to publish. Not only do I stay pretty busy, but I never thought that would be my forte or my interest, and I love gaming. I enjoy design as far as it supplements my gaming experience,
right.
But I travel a lot, and I know we've talked about this before, that I have to supplement my gaming hobby by things I can do by myself, either when I'm traveling, when I'm on the road, when I'm sitting on an airplane, so podcasts and books, and I like to write fiction. When I was RPGing with Rafe and his group, I would write kind of after reports just so I could geek out while sitting on an airplane and relive it. So multiple times I've had these ideas and I've sat down and I've put some rules together and gotten them to the table. And I've done this more than once. And I will tell you early, it did not go well. What sounds good in your mind is often utter garbage on the table. At least my mind.
Right.
Someone else's mind might work better than mine. And but that's okay because I didn't need the product. It was the journey and it was the fun. And my friends and my brother who's a gamer are just, they let me do it. They let me have my space and they entertain me. And I had an idea and I started building a game. And I thought it was going well. And then Super Dungeon Explorer came out, and there were just so many similarities.
Oh yeah.
I pitched it. You know, that's fine. They got there first, and much better than where I was. And I had a mechanic that I came up with when I was working on that I really liked, but it didn't fit in the game. So I started, instead of working on a game, I toyed with this mechanic, and it's a worker placement mechanic that allows a single worker over failed attempts to escalate and basically make the attempts easier. It's just, a simple, slide along the path.
Right.
And I began toying with it, and being a big Mech Warrior fan, as we talked about BattleTech before, I started plotting the idea of what if you had a Mech Warrior game, right? You had a little battle board in front of you, and it was your Mad Cat or your Atlas, and you had a deck of cards for your weapons, and you had movement, and you controlled your heat, and your worker placement was your resources of movement and ammunition and energy and heat.
Ooh, I like that.
It was all kinds of fun.
Yeah.
You could have a deck of cards, and I was playing with it, and I kept running up against the fact that playing in the MechWarrior universe is hard, similar to what you guys talked about. You build a game in GW's universe, and you can only go so far with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And some things were just not working for me. But I liked the mechanics, so I tinkered around with it. And one day, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were really focusing on the mechanic, and the idea came up. All right, so you have this mechanic, lay it out. What would it work well for, right? So we started talking about pirates.
Ooh,
right?
I like pirates. I like pirates, Angelo. I like where you're going.
So honestly, in the world, there are that I know of, pirate placement games. Right? I mean, workers are great, but who wants to work? I want to be a pirate.
Are there going to be
You, man.
Are there going to be pirate meatballs? Because I'm sold already for pirate meatballs.
There are.
Oh, see, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, so I said, all right, so let's work this out. How would it work? And we worked backwards from the mechanic, and we said, okay, picture this. I have a ship in front of me. You have a ship in front of you, and you do passes. Each pass is 7 phases, and you have you're heading towards them phase, and you can't shoot your cannons, right? And you're getting closer, and then you're abroad, then you're full broadside,
right?
And then you go past, and the ships can do different things to different effects. Like you can only fire your cannons during the 3 phases where the ships are side to side, and then you circle around and you go from port to starboard and you pass again. Okay,
nice.
So the game has a built-in element where it changes over the course of a pass, and you have multiple passes. So then you have pirates, and you place them. They can, work the sails and the rigging, and you gain speed, which allows you to get initiative. You can load and fire cannons.
Right.
You can go up in the rigging and fire sharpshooters, which have, so all these mechanics that I played in the BattleTech, and then you have the mechanic of a boarding action.
Oh, God, you got to have that.
So the mechanic was moving my pirate meeples, we'll call them peoples.
Okay.
Or preeples. I haven't really thought this one through. But then you win one of 3 ways. Because just like, in MechWarrior, you're balancing heat, you're balancing ammunition, you're balancing movement. I wanted to have these, in my mind, these gauges that you're racing against the opponent to go up or down. So you have a damage gauge, if you will, hull points, and then you have a water level as you're taking on water.
Right.
And as the cannons are smashing into each other, and these gauges are going up, but you can also take your pirates and you can send them to the bilge and lower your water level.
Oh, nice. I get it.
But then your pirates aren't working to sink the opponent, right? And they're not repelling boarding actions. And it's just this very simple. You've got 8 places on the ship you can do it. The places are different power levels in the past, all contained on the map. So there's not a lot you have to remember. It's all kind of in the graphic element. I picked up that from listening to your show on elegant graphic design.
Graphic design, good.
And one of my
Okay.
one of my rules was you should not have to have a book in front of you when you play it. It's got to be on the map.
Nice.
But the elegant mechanic, I'm not going to call it innovative because I don't know that it is yet. But the one that I was really working with in the Mech Warrior game, and that transferred over and really got me on this. So your cannon, you have 2 stacks of cards per ship. And you have your cannonballs and you have your grape shot.
Yeah.
And then when you flip the card, it has the damage effect. The amount of powder and shot you have is restricted by that deck of cards. If it's gone, it's gone. So if I shoot you and it's a powder explosion, you might lose a couple cards off the top.
Right.
But I didn't want just these damage points and water levels and hull points and me killing a few pirates and boarding actions. As fun as that was, I wanted the choices of your game to increase versus shrink as the game got close to being over. Now, when you're almost out of pirates and you're sinking, you probably have a funnel you're going down. But you don't want to be on a funnel the whole game where you feel like, everything after turn 1, you made no choices.
Right.
So when you flip the cannonball cards, many of them have the damage that it does. So let's say I cause a minor fire. Mm-hmm. And that card now acts as another place you can place your pirate on the ship.
To put the fire out.
Until you put the fire out. And that place then has a different rating that you have to beat depending on how big the fire is. The ongoing effect on the card would say something like, ship's on fire, ongoing +1 hull point. And there's a little slide for your guy. The first turn you try to put the fire out, you got to beat an 8+ on basically a 2d6 surrogate. Right. If you fail, you slide, and next time maybe it's only a 6+, and then it's a 3+. So the longer your pirate works on the fire, the more likely he is to put it out.
Can I throw?
You can double down. And
I was going to say, can I throw more pirates at it to increase my probability?
You can. Another pirate will slide through it. So if you have a major fire and you're almost at a hull point, you could take your pirates for that placement, run them all to the fire, put it out. Well, now I haven't got ahead in the pirate war, so it's just the choices really start to stack up. And in play testing, you find this early game, you feel like you have all these choices to affect the game, and late game you have all these choices, or you're in trouble,
or you're dead.
Right? Yes. So it has the excitement that I want. It has the energy I want. I could tell you all kinds of stories about play testing and lessons learned, and frankly, the amount of mechanics and ideas I had to throw away are more numerous than ones I kept. There are more bad ideas than good ideas. And I love to talk a bit about that process, less my game specific and more game design in general. But I've learned a ton about the creative process and being open-minded. I think you guys said it on your show an episode or two ago that sometime, I think you got, maybe the expression was "kill your baby," or
that was with Rick Priestley.
Yeah, and when I heard that, it immediately registered, because there were a couple of ideas that I had early on that I just did not want to let go of. Mm-hmm. And every one of my play testers and every one of my friends were being friends by making sure I knew how bad what I was doing sucked. And when I got there, it opened up so many ideas and it got better. So I'm at a point now where I have the game, I have the cards, I have an artist working on, a friend of mine who's an artist who's working on some elements for me, the ships and the card frames. And I'm really coming to that point that after a little more game balancing, because it's still a little out of balance, I got to tweak the numbers and the statistics and everything. I have a decision to make on, is it really just a hobby, or do I try to take this out and share my efforts with the community?
Right.
Now, interestingly enough, the original quote is "kill your darlings," and it's from William Faulkner. Actually, it's advice for writers.
Well, it is good advice, because one of the to share specifics to help you get there. So one of the things that I had come up with, I have terrible luck. You guys have played games with me. If there was a random element, it's going to get me in the biggest, most sensational way, and it will. Stories are told about how bad my luck is. I don't gamble for just that reason. I might as well just give my money away. So I did not want a random. I wanted random, but I didn't want a random system that could make the game overly swingy. So I came up with the idea of using a deck of cards, 50 cards.
Right.
1 through 10, 5 of each. So even though it was random, the bell curve would always be the same after you went through 50 cards.
Right.
And I based everything around it. And the 1 to 10 system, and I know this because the D20 system in D&D is designed to be very swingy, right? Big heroic moments and heroic failures. Well, a D10 system, 1 to 10 in a similar element, gives you an awful lot of that. And what I was finding as I was trying to balance it is it just didn't take much in a game like this for one person to flip over 2 8s and a 9 and one guy to do 2 2s and a 3, and all of a sudden there was no coming back, and you can't balance for that much randomness. So my friends were pushing very hard to go to a 2d6 system, right? A very standardized, 7 system that's a lot more consistent, where a +1 means a lot more in a 2d6 system than a +1 means in a d10 system.
Right.
And I fought it. We play tested. I was literally to a point I thought, this game's not going anywhere. I'm getting frustrated.
Right.
I was refusing to go with dice. And I got to the point, wait a minute, why don't I just replicate the 2d6 system on the cards, create 36 cards from 2 to 12 following the 2d6, and I'll have my random, non-spiky method that gets me the best of both worlds. And overnight, I solved for that spikiness, and we were actually I'm hoping to get it to the table with some new changes to it Sunday and get the feel for how it works, and it feels really good at this point.
Well, that's cool. So it's cool you had a vision, but you also you kept to your vision of wanting cards to mitigate to keep it to the mean there, but you also said, but I'm okay with changing the range based on my player feedback. I think that was clever.
Yeah, I also wanted tokens for gunpowder and ball, and I wanted this and I wanted that, and it kept coming down to relevant choices and simple application. Mm-hmm. And we kept eliminating elements of the game and making them map based and using one mechanic for everything, and just twisting it a little bit for variety versus multiple ways of getting there. And the game just kept getting more and more elegant. If you have 3 good ideas, but one accomplishes all 3 things, use the one, and play the game. So it just kept getting slimmer and slimmer and cleaner, and it got to a point where I thought I could play this with my 8 and my 10-year-old, and after one playthrough they would get it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think if I look back at the games I enjoy now, especially in modern games, there's not a lot of tables to look at, and the rules are very straightforward. It's a consistent mechanic all the way through.
Yeah, so I am there, and now I'm going to balance the statistics, and then I've got some decisions to make.
Yeah. So have you got everything locked down in terms of have you courted anybody or not yet? You're just thinking.
Well, I have. At preparation, I have a friend who's chasing game design as a career, and he was going to school for it, and he's got a couple ideas, and they're really, really great ideas. So I've been helping him play testing and being a sounding board. So we went ahead and we worked on opening an LLC just to protect ourselves, and created the ability to bring this out. He works in the game space now, and he's done some work. Graphic layouts and some writing, and he works with a production company, and they produce and distribute. So there's some early talks that if they really like it when it's all done, they'd run with it. Right?
Cool.
Take a piece off the top. My question is that what I really want to do? I'm fortunate I'm in a position, if I wanted to, I could vanity publish. I don't know that I want to do that. The question that I've come back to when I started off to talk a bit about Kickstarter, and I think that's why a lot of gamers are suddenly thinking they're going to make a game, because Kickstarter makes it feel very possible.
Right.
Yep. So when I really got to a point where I thought maybe I'm onto something this time, I was dead set against Kickstarter.
Really?
Not because I don't love it. I'm on a couple things myself on Kickstarter that I've followed and supported, and I think it's a great vehicle. But I didn't see myself doing that. Right? I'm very independent. I like to do my own thing. So I've got one option with the production company. I've got another option to just produce it. I could also go print on demand with this idea, right? And just put it out there and be a little more casual and a little less high end. So I was finding ways to get there without Kickstarter. A little bit because I'm stubborn, and a little bit because I didn't want to be that guy riding the wave. Right. I don't know. I just haven't. That's just not who I am. Not who I want to be. But as I started following stuff on Kickstarter, and I started watching what funded and what didn't, and listening to folks and reading folks talking about their Kickstarter ideas, I really latched on to the obvious statement. So to back up, I create a game that I think I like, with an idea I think I like. My friends and my playtesters say, we think we like it, and we would buy this game. Of course, they playtested it, and they're my friends. Maybe I take it to a few strangers or my local game store, and there's some support for it. Then you bite the bullet and you go to production. Is there really interest in your game?
Right.
And the beauty of Kickstarter is you put your best pitch forward, you put it out there, the community passes judgment by what they decide to do.
Right.
And that simple trigger of funding says, the community wants what you're doing, and you're not going to be another faded out box on a shelf for the game store that accidentally bought the game that wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Well, I think that's the most powerful thing of Kickstarter is that it's vetting an idea before you've had to commit any resources to it, right? So if you go through the process, or a company goes through the process of publishing a game, and you think it's going to be great, the company's thinks it's going to be great, the playtesters all say it's going to be great, and it comes out there, and because of a misprint in the rule book or whatever, it's a flop, or just isn't a very good game nationwide or whatever, it's a flop. All that money's been spent. You had the 1,000-copy print run, all that time went into it. It's done, right? It's a lost effort and lost money. But with Kickstarter, you do enough to, and we've learned from bad Kickstarters, you have to do a lot of work up front still, but it's not thousands and thousands of dollars. You get it set up, you get enough information to get people out there, you do some playtesting so you can present enough information about the project, enough information to, show the concept of the game. And then, if you think, I'm not going to do this unless we make 10 grand on Kickstarter and the initial print run, or 5 grand initial print run, or 20,000, whatever you think the magic number is, and you decide, and that doesn't happen, well, okay, it didn't work, but at least you're done, right? You didn't waste all that money.
Absolutely. And the point you made is, I think, one that anyone listening to this saying, I'm going to run with my idea. My belief, and you guys weigh in and tell me what you think. You go to Kickstarter at the end of your diligence and effort, not at the beginning.
Right.
Not, I have an idea and a name and one piece of art. And it'd be like if I put a paragraph up saying, I'm going to do a pirate placement game with pirate meeples and ships and cards and cannons, and here's what it looks like. And then took it out there and said, I'll design it and balance it and play test it later. First, I don't know that you're going to get funded. And frankly, if you do, you're not going to get the best game because you didn't go through the rigor and the game didn't sell you first. You're almost obligated to come up with a game. And if it doesn't go where you wanted it to, you're really in a bad spot. If I'd gone to Kickstarter with some of my earlier ideas, I'd be in a really bad place. Yeah. So my position is, until I am literally ready where I say I would be willing to vanity publish this. Maybe I don't have all the artwork. Our artwork's tough. It's expensive. I've got a bit of it done. It's not without time and energy. I have a great friend, Brian, who's been really working on it and does an amazing job. But it's not easy. So only when I'm ready I could turn the key. If I had the funding, would I take it to Kickstarter? I think that's a great place to be.
No, I think you're exactly right, because it's kind of like selling to a publisher, right? You can go to a publisher with just barely a concept and not much done out, and that publisher's probably going to say, "Come back to me when you've got something worth looking at," right? If you go to the publisher with the entire project all well thought out, and pretty well play tested, and you can actually play a game with the publisher with components you've kind of made together, and if it's a good game, that will probably compel them to sell. We've heard many publishers on this show who have said, well, the guy that came to me and it was basically done, and I was like, beautiful. I'm gonna print it. Kickstarter is the same thing, but instead of pitching it to the publisher, you're pitching it to the public, who in many ways can be more demanding. But we also have great examples of this. I mean, if you look at two really recent, and I'm going to put Craig on the spot here a little bit, but two really recent miniature gaming Kickstarters. There was one called Wild West Exodus, and there was one by Rick Priestley called Gates of Antares, right? Now, Gates of Antares had Rick Priestley behind it, one of the biggest names in miniature wargaming ever. But, Angelo, he did what you described. He had an idea and basically a couple pieces of art and said, we want to build a company on this. Who wants to back us? With very little up front. And he knows that. He said it pretty much on our show, right? And that got canceled. But then you had Wild West Exodus, who came in really well prepared. Clearly, there'd been tons of stuff written before it even started. There'd been tons of miniatures sculpted before it even started. And there was a very clear vision as soon as the Kickstarter went up and that project funded. And I think that's really the key.
One was asking you to fund a game, and one was asking you to fund an idea.
Yes. Yep.
And I feel a whole lot better putting my money behind a game.
Yes. I think you're right.
It's easier to see also.
Right.
Yes.
Despite the ridiculous litany of names that was behind the Gates of Antares, which I think is still going to turn up and be a really cool game.
Right.
But when I mean it's that element of like you'd love to be part of something like that on the ground floor, but exactly as you say, Angelo, it's much easier to put your money behind a game that's concrete and you can see it, even if it's in its infant stage, as opposed to like this overarching idea and we got some stuff there, we got some stuff over here, we got some stuff over on the other side. So it is a fine line between finding out if the community is going to support your idea versus finding out if your idea can actually be a solid game.
Right.
Absolutely. And the day that if I decide to go to Kickstarter, I will be in a position that if it doesn't fund, I can almost immediately send my product out, have the ships done on, there's a company that prints playmats. I can go to Art Cow and have the decks of cards printed, and I can put my game on my shelf, give it to my closest friends and say, hey, that's okay. It's a house game, right? It's ours and we built it and we enjoy it. And that's okay too. One of the other ones that this friend of mine who is really pursuing games aggressively as a full-time job is working on, he calls it a vertical slice, right? So there's the whole game concept. I don't know if that's an industry term or his term, but he's got the whole concept laid out, and then he took a piece of the game and built it through from start to finish so we can really get it to the table and start to vet it out and start to play it. And he's been working on this for a couple of years. When we got done with our first play test, we looked, and I had really no experience with the game. I was ready to bring it back to the table and go through that small slice again, and I couldn't wait to see it pushed out at the edges. So there you see again, he brought a game, not an idea to the table, and I'm really looking forward to getting that one out again.
I think that's the key. I think you're right. Wow, we covered a lot of areas here, from our nostalgia of building our own little games for ourselves to what it takes to get Kickstarter working. Holy mackerel!
Yeah. Well, if we got a minute,
a mistake.
What?
I want to fix a mistake.
Well, you don't want to get a lot of emails like you did about Benjamin Franklin?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, the original quote was by Arthur Quiller Couch. He's a British in English actually professor, and he did some writing, but mainly he was a literary critic and things like that. And the whole quote, which I love now, it's going to be one of my favorites, is, whenever you feel an impulse to perpetrate a piece of exceptionally fine writing, obey it wholeheartedly, and then delete it before sending your manuscript to press. Murder your darlings. So, and the basic concept behind that, and the reason that it expands out to game design and a lot of other creative elements, is when there's an element of what you're doing that serves you way more than it serves your reader or your players, that's what needs to be removed. When you become so in love or enamored with a mechanic or a scene or something, but it's not actually adding to the whole, which is exactly what Angelo said, that's what needs to be removed. And it's kind of hard to see that when you're in the middle of it because you love it so much. So it takes a lot of analysis and soul searching to figure that out. So just wanted to put that out there.
Excellent. And game designers, choose your play testers wisely. We've all got that friend who loves to argue and debate. That's the guy you want playing your game.
Yes.
Right.
It's not the guy who loves everything.
No,
Yes.
You want the rules lawyer in there, actually.
Well, I'll be honest. I wanted the guy who loved everything because I really wanted my darling to be loved. But I'm glad my friends aren't like that.
Nice. All right,
you
though. So
go.
if you got a game idea, try making it in your house. Why
So
not?
many avenues now.
Right.
And as a consumer surrounded by piles of games, there's a market for it. We all keep buying them.
We do.
True. That's true.
Are you looking for news, reviews, and interviews? The D6 generation. It's groovy is as groovy does define, baby. The D6 generation. Born to game. Oh, yeah.
And at this special time of year, of course, our minds turn to warfare in the biblical age.
Oh, yes.
And of course, if you're talking about warfare in the biblical age, what better to talk about than chariots?
Oh, yes.
And you know who's got a special on chariots this month, Russ?
Oh, it's War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy magazine. I'm zooming in right now I'm looking through the latest issue, actually, and they've got some great pictures in here of some fantastically sculpted and painted chariots from all kinds of ages of battle. Just great stuff. And that's the thing about War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy magazine that I cannot stress enough how wonderfully visual this magazine is. And it's just a great way to slowly turn through the pages and really enjoy the feast for your eyes that is these miniature dioramas they set up.
It's the history of historical wargaming to life.
It really does. And
The pictures and the themes and the games and the scenarios. It really is everything that a historical wargamer wants other wargamers to know historical wargaming is. It's not dry, it's not dusty, it's interesting, it's exciting, it's just got all kinds of. Our friend Rick Priestley, of course, has a regular article there.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend, did you see how I did that?
I like how you did that, yeah. And it was also cool. Like, look at the cover. It's got two chariots racing side by side. One guy's firing his bow. The other guy's getting shot and falling forward with an arrow sticking out of him. How awesome is that cover? It's
That
just
is a great cover. And it's a diorama.
It is. Great stuff.
It's a diorama. And one of the articles inside the magazine is always how they made the diorama.
I know. It's fantastic. If you are a miniature gamer, it doesn't matter whether you're into historicals or not, you got to check this magazine out to really appreciate the work. And if you're not a miniature gamer and like to learn more about the hobby in general and historical gaming in particular, there is no better way than WSSmagazine.com. And what's the deal, Craig, with getting a discount from them?
Well, when you go to order anything at War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy magazine, basically at checkout, you can put D6G listeners
Or just
using
D6G.
a coupon code D6G as you check out for 15% off anything you order from their website.
That's right. So check it out at WSSmagazine.com.
Yay! This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hello, everyone. This is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin. Check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. And this week's shout out, Cowboys and Aliens tinker with otherworldly gadgets to make bizarre contraptions in Area 1851 from 524 Labs, funding now on Kickstarter. Okay, so I have El Rabinovich, who is one of the co-founders of Playscape, here to talk to us today. El, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nicole. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Now, tell everybody briefly, what exactly is Playscape?
So Playscape is a technology-based mobile game publisher, and we publish mobile games on mobile, currently on Android only. And we do it kind of in a special way. We provide an end-to-end solution for developers that is composed of development tools, distribution platform, and data analysis services. So in comparison to other traditional publishers, we rely heavily on technology.
And now, how long have you guys been doing this? Is this a new company, or have you been around for a little bit?
We have been around a little bit. We have been publishing games since 2008. So we really got to see all the major changes that took place in the market since the Android and the iPhone ecosystem were launched to the market as publishers and both as consumers, by the way. So we have been around a while, for a while now.
Now, so that's like 5 years then, right? Roughly?
Yeah, that's 5 years. Yes.
And how many people do you have that are currently using your services?
So from the user standpoint, we have more than 40 million users. That's quite a lot.
Wow.
And from the developer standpoint, we have hundreds of developers and more than 20 different geolocations around the globe.
Now, do they apply to be a developer working with you? Is it a long and involved process? How does someone find out about working with you guys?
So we have different opportunities for different developers. The most traditional one is very simple. All they have to do is go to the website, download the Playscape Studio, and once they do that, they automatically become a partner. They have an instant access to all the know-how we have in our forums, to our devoted account management team. And that's like the fastest way, the fastest lane in order to become a partner. For developers that are more experienced that have a better track record, we do have additional more premium channels. We have one that is called Premium Playscape Developer, in which we also fund projects. Obviously, since we fund those projects, it takes some more time in order to get into one of these programs. And developers do have to prove that they have created a very successful game in some ways in the past. And in addition to that, we also have something that is called the collaboration program. And we know that developers have a hard time tapping into mobile. A lot of people are coming from the PC area. So if we find developers that have very successful PC games and they would like to replicate that success and move it to mobile, we have them do that as well.
Excellent. So depending on how involved and how much experience a given developer has, you have an option that sort of works for everybody.
Exactly. We try to really have a tailor-made offering for each one of the developers depending on their stage and their previous work in the field.
Now, I also read something about a competition you have called the Gamecast competition.
Yep.
Tell everybody what exactly that is.
So Gamecast contest is a contest we have every year. Every year we try to provide better and higher prizes for the winners. This time we offered a prize in worth of $100,000, and that is composed of cash prize. 50% of it is cash, so the developers get a significant amount of money. And the idea behind the contest is that the developers will use this money in order to create their own studio and start working very professionally in this field. Because as you probably know, there are a lot of independent developers that are working in their garages after work, and we try to find these talents and invest in them in order for them to be able to work professionally as game developers as the main job. And the other half of the prize is meant for the marketing of their games. So the idea behind the contest is not only to find good games, but also to find great developers and to have a long-term investment and relationship with them.
Excellent.
In the past, we had some very successful winners, by the way. We are still working with them, and we continue to work with them in the future.
Excellent. Now, if people were interested in possibly winning that contest and being able to apply, can they find that at your information about that at your website as well?
Yes, all the information can be found in the website. The contest of this year is about to be over. I do have to say that.
Okay.
But we are going to open a new one in this year, so all they have to do is to stay tuned and wait for the next one.
Excellent. Now, give everybody again the website where they can find out more about Playscape and more about the Gamecast contest.
So the website for Playscape is playscape.com, and for the Gamecast contest, it's gamecastcontest.com. So that should be quite easy to find.
Excellent. Thank you so much for talking with us, Eyal, and best wishes with Playscape.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me on the show.
And I want to do it inaugural. The inaugural announcement. I'd like to welcome our newest, and we're super excited about this, our newest sponsors to the show.
Oh, yes.
Demons of the gaming world.
Oh, yes.
These guys have got their fingers in everything, but most importantly, they are dragging, kicking, and screaming miniatures and board games together.
Oh, yes.
In a synergy of gaming wonderfulness.
Oh, yes.
Kind of lost it at the end. Russ, who are we talking about?
We are talking about my friend and Craig's Cool Mini or Not. We are so thrilled to have them supporting the show. We are longtime fans of their work, their website, and of course their games. And it is just great to have a company of this caliber supporting our show. We really, really appreciate it. And Cool Mini or Not, you guys may have heard of these guys. You may not know it. But if you've played a little game called Zombicide or heard about it, you know, the one that made over $1 million at Kickstarter, and the new Zombicide expansion just closed at over $2 million on Kickstarter. Cool Mini or Not, those are them. That's the guys. That's them.
Dr. Evil wanted less than that.
I know, right? It's crazy talk. And the thing to remember about Cool Mini or Not is not only do they make fantastic board games and miniature games, I mean, they have some games like Dark Age that are pure miniature games. They have games that are like clear hybrid games, like the Zombicide game, like Sedition Wars, like Rivet Wars, like, here's the thing. If you want to try all these games out, the place to go is the Expo. See how I did that? Cool Mini or Not has having their very, very first Expo this very year in May. May 17th through 19th, 2013, is going to be the first ever Cool Mini or Not Expo. It's a place to go to try out all their games, see all their fantastic games. But not only that, the thing that made Cool Mini or Not huge, and a lot of people don't know this, but before they made games, they were a website all about, their name came from Cool Mini or Not. They put pictures up on their website.
Much more sense when you know their history.
Right. And they launched about the time when we launched Daka Daka back in the day, so I was very conscious about them and always impressed by their work. And they had these sites and just had a miniature on it, and it would say Cool Mini or Not, and it would show a painting of someone's miniature. People would vote whether it was a cool miniature or not. And from there, they went to custom sculpts and professional painting, and these guys represent or are involved with some of the best painters on the planet, and they promote miniature painting to an extreme degree. They're really, really far behind that. And at their expo, they're going to have a Crystal Brush preliminary qualifier. We've talked about on the show before how awesome Crystal Brush at Adepticon every year.
It's insane.
It is fantastic, and this is one of the ways. If you go to the expo this May and you qualify, you can get your entry entered into next year, the 2014 Adepticon, and possibly get a chance at the $10,000 prize that is the Crystal Brush competition.
The competition is brutal. These are the most amazing models you are ever going to see. Bar none. The freehand painting, the all of the different techniques that you'll see, the aging, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's stunning, the painting that you see at the Crystal Brush.
Indeed. And here's what's even better. What's awesome is that a lot of the best painters on the planet are going to be here at the Cool Mini or Not Expo this time around, showing off their skills, giving you tips, and also folks in the industry like Mike McVeigh is going to be there, all kinds of great stuff. So if you want to check this out, head on over to coolminiornotexpo.com to check out all the information about this awesome expo. And if you want to learn more about their games or their cool sculpts, coolminiornot.com. Yep.
Isn't it CMON Expo?
That works too. Either of those things work. And they'll get you there and you can check it out. coolminiornot.com.
Woo!
Hey D6G, it's Adam. When I called in for your resolution episode, I said one of my resolutions was to try to call in at least 6 times this year, so here's shot number 1. Now, I realized that I bought about half of the games you guys reviewed. I went through the game list and checked it out, and I thought you guys might want to hear how some of your fans feel about the games we buy after your review. So the most recent game that I've purchased that you reviewed is Space Cadets, and I should probably let everyone know that I actually know Jeff and Brian. They're part of our War Machine group, who I met through the D6 generation, oddly enough. And I actually remember Jeff talking about this game when he was in the middle of designing it. So I have some interesting insight there. And I know one of the things he said he was trying to do, one of the problems he was trying to solve, like you guys said, was that alpha gamer. When you're playing a cooperative game and there are 5 people around the table, but really it's just one person telling everyone else what to do. And I definitely feel like he solved that problem. We had a lot of fun playing the game. Everyone had a blast. All the mini-games were easy enough to learn that everyone was able to get into it pretty easily. And the videos on the Stronghold Games website really helped, actually. One thing we did find, though, it was actually harder to teach than some other games because there are 8 different positions to teach. You can't just teach the same thing to everyone. You have to teach each individual part. We tried to send the videos out early so people could look at them and try them, but it made it a little more difficult because, especially me as sort of the groundskeeper, I had to know everything, and then I was trying to go back and forth and help everyone out. The other thing we noticed that was pretty interesting was that this is sort of the opposite of a lot of cooperative games. Now, our group loves cooperative games, partially because my wife is very competitive, and so a lot of times she won't like competitive games as much, because if she wins, she'll kind of, won't feel as much satisfaction as she might have as if she had done it with a team, and if she loses, she'll get really upset at everyone else. So cooperative games have been a big part of our repertoire. It's what we play a lot. But this sort of had the opposite problem that you don't see very often with cooperative games, which is that you can actually get mad at other people. You're not getting mad at them because they're screwing you or they're doing something to you, but they're messing with the whole team. Consequently, you can also get upset if you mess up something. If you miss that one torpedo shot that was going to save your ship, and now all of a sudden you take all sorts of damage, that's your fault, and you can get sort of upset about having done that. In a cooperative game, normally that doesn't happen because everyone's sort of making decisions together, and everyone made the decision. It wasn't just you, unless you went rogue and tried to do something without everyone else's consent. So while it does get rid of that alpha gamer problem, you also sort of lose something in that it gets really tense and uptight. And we had a couple players who are sort of casual, laid back, and they don't really like to take the role onto themselves, and maybe they're not quite as tactically sound as everyone else in trying to figure out what the optimal solution is. And so they kind of got left on an island in this game. They got stuck off to the side. Now, I know I've said a lot, and it sounds like I don't like the game, but we loved it. It was a lot of fun. The individual games aren't necessarily as interesting unless you really like Tangrams or Yahtzee, but there's that sense of excitement that you want to get from a game, and that basically happens every turn, which is great. So we had a lot of fun. It's definitely a good way to stay cooperative, but to change our gaming cycle up. And we had a blast with it. We're definitely going to play a bunch more missions. On the whole, I'd say on the D6 generation, patent pending rating system, I'd give it a 4+. Now, that's not to say I don't think it's a great game, but I think there are a bunch of things in there that might turn someone off. If you're competitive and you want to play against other people, you're not going to get that here. If you want a cooperative game that everyone can kind of chill out and play together, you're not going to get that here. So it's great, but I give it a 4+. If you guys like these feedback sessions from fans, I'll love to do more. Like I said, I've purchased probably about half of the games you guys have reviewed, so just let me know. Until next time, see you guys later.
You're listening to the D6 generation. More to game.
And of course, we would be remiss if we did not mention Game Salute. Russ, what is going on with Dan and Game Salute now?
Well, as Dan mentioned, he was on the show a while ago. Game Salute was very excited to get the license to The Princess Bride. Remember that movie with Fred Savage? Yes, that one. Well, what's very exciting about this license is they're planning on making several different games, and I got a chance to try out a prototype of the brand new game they're working on now called Hello, My Name Is. Prepare to Die. And what's really cool about this is the game is basically decks, and it's kind of like apples to apples, right? So you get a deck of cards, and it says, hello, my name is, and it's got a name in there. And then there's another deck of cards that are prepare to somethings. So, for example, I got the card Julia Childs. So it's like, hello, my name is Julia Childs, prepare to, and you put down whatever it is. And so you have different ones, and what you do is you lock in the one from your hand that's best, and then the judges pick which one was the best particular chance of saying for that particular case. So, my hope, prepare to die because you move my cheese, or things like that. So you can find out different things that go on. And it's really actually leads to some very hilarious, fun moments. And Nicole and I played it several times at PAX East, had a blast. And whoever we showed it to thought it was really funny as well. So great implementation and a perfect way to get into The Princess Bride. Looked great. So again, what's great about Game Salute is they're bringing all these kind of games that wouldn't normally make it out there to life, and injecting it. The Game Salute Powered by system is fantastic because it lets smaller publishers get their games onto Kickstarter and going, and not have to learn all those challenging lessons that new Kickstarter folks learn, because GameSloot's there to back them up and help them avoid the pitfalls that so many people fall into.
Yep, absolutely. They are great for the industry. They're great for up and coming designers, and they've got some of the best games coming out right now. It's awesome to see them help everybody, because a rising tide raises all ships.
It does. And in a place like PAX East, again, it's very expensive to get a booth there. GameSloot's got the booth there, demoing all these great new products from Kickstarter and other small publishers right there in their booth, just like they're one of the big boys. It was awesome. So head on over to GameSloot.com to get all the industry info you need and find out what's going on with our friends at GameSloot.
This is the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com.
Hey, welcome back. And as of course you know by now, because we've been talking about it through most of the episode, today we're going to review the really cool, almost incidental game line that Wizards of the Coast came out with called Dungeon Command. I think the reason now Russ, let me get your take on this. I think the reason that even though it came out months ago, nobody was really playing it at the game store was because a lot of people thought, it's the exact same models. It's not, it's got nothing new. It's kind of like a repackage for the board games maybe. And so there really was nothing that was igniting anybody's interest. Except that Russ got his hands on a couple and started playing with his daughters.
Yes, well, that's how it started first. But what's funny is that when it first came out last summer, Dan from Myriad Games got the two early copies, and I happened to be at his house. He's like, "You want to try this new game?" And I just got it, and we tried it, and we were kind of about it, to be honest. But Angelo and I were just talking about this before we got on the show. Angelo and I were saying, it's funny. The rule book isn't probably as it's easy to miss the rules, some of the nuanced rules in the rule book, the way it's laid out, and the game may appear at first overly simple, but it's really not. There's a lot going on here, and it's actually a really interesting, in-depth game, and especially the more you get into the cards, and now that there's more sets, it also goes back to when it first launched, there were 2 factions. Now there's 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So a lot happened since it first came out.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm loving it. As we talked about in achievements, I went from playing one game with you to going out and buying my own faction box. So and now I've repainted it. So all that in 2 days.
Right. So Angelo, how did you get sucked into this game?
It was, hey, look, D&D models with a game wrapped around it. And I think that's why the game didn't take off for me. I really felt like it preconceived that it's a tacked on game and a reason to sell a war band. Now, I love the idea of a dozen models around a theme, right? I could plan a dungeon around this or a large encounter, really get my bang for my buck. When I finally tried the game, as we were talking about, Russ, the rule book didn't do its justice, and I felt like it's a game. They had to find a reason to sell models. Only when I stuck a few sets together, played it with my nephew who's a little bit older, a little more experienced gamer, and I realized how competitive we were getting. The game was escalating. I realized some of the more complex underpinnings of the game that I started getting excited and jumped on and ordered the rest of the sets.
Yeah, me too. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the basics here. So from a high level, right, this thing came out last year, 2012, from our friends, of course, at Wizards of the Coast. It is Dungeons & Dragons. And the premise of this whole thing is it's really a card-driven skirmish game, but you get a bunch, 12 per box, pre-painted miniatures, and some battle tiles. So you're basically, it's sort of like, Dungeons & Dragons combat on a battlefield, or a dungeon or outdoors. And each of these boxes is self-contained, as Angelo mentioned, a self-contained war band with enough stuff in it for one player. So to really play, you need 2 boxes. One box can get you started, but it's designed for each player to have their own box. So kind of like a miniature game, right? It's walking that hybrid line between each person buys their own army, quote unquote, and plays, but it's also a board game. It's advertised really as a 2-player game, but there are 3 and 4-player variants, which Craig mentioned earlier, work great. We'll get more opinions on that in a minute. And it's suggested playtime is 90 minutes. How's everybody found playtime to be so far?
I would say for me, it's been running closer to an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a game go for 90 minutes. And if you split a box in half and do the gold-silver matchup, it's even quicker. But a full game at 90 minutes, you'd be taking a lot of phone breaks.
Right. And the suggested retail price of one of these boxes is $40. We'll get more into the value later, but you're getting we'll talk about what's in the box in a minute, and we'll talk about value. And the pitch, as is presented in the rulebook, Angelo, do you want to read the in a dramatic voice? The
Absolutely.
Here you go.
In the Dungeon Command game, you take on the role of a commander, sending a warband to battle the forces arrayed against you. You recruit troops and deploy them on the battlefield. You issue orders to those creatures, outfit them with spells and equipment, and direct their tactics to break the morale of your enemies and drive them from the field. Will your command ability carry the day against your opponent?
Exactly right. And I think one of the things, Craig, to answer your first question about why it's becoming popular now is there's now 5 different sets. And now it goes from, oh, look, I can play, Drow versus to heroes, or, oh, my goodness, I got 5 different factions to choose from. And I think that's one of the reasons our friends are all of a sudden looking around going, this is pretty neat. So, Craig, what are the different factions available now? When did they launch?
The different factions and when did they launch?
Yeah, just to give people a timeline.
Interesting. Well, at launch, you had the Lolth and the Heart of Cormyr, the one I just picked up, which are the Drow, of course, and the heroes. And coincidentally, my 2 favorites.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And then you had, right after launch, they had the Tyranny of Goblins, and of course, they're primarily goblins.
And we should say, too, each box comes with, sorry to interrupt you, but each box comes with 12 guys, but some of them are little dudes, but there's always a couple really big things in each of the boxes, too, right?
Most of them are sort of like...
Sorry about that. Keep going there.
Most of them are like champion level individuals, and then you've got like 4 little weedy guys, two of 2 different types in most of the armies. And then you have like 1 or 2 really big giant guys.
Right, like a Drider or...
dragons or Driders or trolls. The Curse of the Undeath has a freaking Draco Lich. How cool is that?
That is cool. That just came out at the end of the year.
Model.
Yeah, that's a cool model.
It's a very cool model. And then the newest one is the Blood of Grumush, which is the Orcs, which just came out recently. And... according to Angelo, is all new sculpts, and he's got a whole scoop on what's up with those. So, Angelo, what's up with the Orcs of the Blood of Grumush?
Yeah, you'll definitely notice a difference when you open that box set. And I heard this from the Wizards of the Coast. They created a new master model of an orc, and they based it on the D&D Next art concept for orcs, and then they fitted it out with equipment, poses, and weapons, and they used that to pin all the orc models. The only piece that's based on old art is the owlbear, but it's still a new model. So for the first time, and hopefully excitement for the future of this series, you've got 4 sets of repaint and then a 5th set of all new models, never been seen before, and they're really good-looking models. They look like they belong together. I think it's a great warband, and I can't wait to see if they do a number 6 and what that is.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Mm-hmm. So that's the sets. Now, when you open one of these sets, basically what's in each of the boxes is pretty similar. So what you get in your box for your $40, you're going to get 12 of these pre-painted plastic models, and as Angelo mentioned, most of them are reprints of prior plastic D&D models. The preprints are okay. They're not the best in the world, but they're good. And then, of course, the new orcs, which are brandy new. You're also going to get double-sided tiles, 2 large tiles and 2 small tiles. And that's enough for half the board. So the intent here is that you're going to take the tiles that come in your box and hook them together with the tiles that come with Angelo's box, and we're going to battle. What's neat about that is the tiles in the goblins are different than the tiles with Loth, with the Drow. So if Angelo's got Drow, we're going to have a Drow tiles versus Goblin tiles, which make the game different than if I fought someone else. And of course, you're allowed to mix and match the tiles from different sets too. It always comes up with all kinds of crazy battlefields. Now, also in there are 2 player mats, and the player mats have 2 different commanders on the cards that work with your faction. So basically, when you're playing the game for a little bit of replayability, you're going to choose which of the commanders is going to command your force today, and they're both themed to match your force. So if you're playing goblins, there'll be 2 different kind of goblin leader types, but they're going to have different tactics and abilities and different functions depending on who you pick, right? Then you're going to get a bunch of tokens for tracking hit points and morale and leadership and treasure bits and all that kind of stuff. You got a deck of creature cards, and there's 1 card in the creature deck for each creature in the box. And you're also going to get a deck of order cards, which are going to give you all that fun abilities. We'll get into more of those later when we get into combat and stuff. Now, what's also cool about this is you get the bonus, I know, Angelo, you like these, you get the bonus D&D Adventure Series cards. How do those work?
Oh, it's great. You can move these right into your Drizzt board game or any of the other sets that you have. I'm holding them in my hands, looking at the Feral Droll of 4 experience, 4 hit point, right, creature that you could drop the model right in your Drift game, change that up. So for that $40, you get miniatures, you get a game, and you get a game add-on all packed together.
And what's cool, too, is because they're so themed, like if I take the Curse of Undeath and take that extra deck out and put that right into my Ravenloft box set, now I've got a bunch more undead guys running around Ravenloft, which makes it even more perfectly themed. So you can really add a lot of variety to the other games. So it's really, these boxes have two uses. It's the Dungeon Command game, and oh, by the way, it's also an add-on for the other adventure D&D games. Oh, and by the way, these are perfectly themed for D&D, the RPG.
I was going to say, I would say it's easily a three-way because we know we have one group of our friends who plays D&D on a regular basis, and they actually borrowed somebody's Sting of Loth box because they were fighting Drow, and that one box had all the models in it that they needed.
Oh, it's perfect if you're doing a themed campaign. You're like, we're going to find a bunch of goblins, but I get the goblin box, and bam, you got everything you need. And it gets rid of the whole annoying blind purchase that used to exist in the D&D plastics. Right now, you're getting exactly what you want, which is nice.
Yep.
Now, of course, also there's a rule booklet in there. It's 15 pages, and as we mentioned, it looks nice. It's okay. It's got a reference in the back. It's got a table of contents. But I don't know, Angelo, did you find it was easy to miss certain rules in there?
Yeah, this is really one of those games best played with a friend. You can read the rule book, you can play. When you go back and read the rule book, you're still going to have some questions. I think, just like I thought it was miniatures with a game wrapped around it, I think maybe the initial design lent itself to that a little bit, and I think there was a bit of a miss in that rule book.
Yeah, I don't know if they've gotten better in the other supplements or if it's just they've got a lot of FAQs in there.
No, I looked through the most recent one, and I think it assumes, I believe, that you know how to play Magic and you know how to play D&D miniatures, and this is not your first rodeo, and you still have to interpret. If someone's interested, you can download the books off of WotC's site and give it a read through. It's worth overcoming, though, and once you do, the game is very playable.
Yeah, and there's some excellent quick reference guides on Board Game Geek that fans have made up for the game that make it much easier to digest how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, no, but I mean, all the rules are here. It's not like there's anything glaringly missing from the rule book, but it's hard to find. Like last night we started to get into not an argument, but we couldn't figure out what exactly having a card that was tapped meant. And it took forever to find a little sidebar that addresses tapping, which doesn't really sort of fit into the flow of everything else that's going on around it in the rule book.
Yeah, it's funny that some key elements like that and treasure chests are sort of these little sidebars, and they're not in the table of contents. It's like, where do I find this? And you can tell, and Angelo, you mentioned Magic. Magic was definitely here. I mean, this is Wizards of the Coast. They own Magic. They own the license to the word tap, so they use it. They have, your Magic players will recognize tapping and the stack and other those Magic concepts that are built into the game. And to be honest, when I first saw that, I figured Craig would not like this game because it felt like Magic with D&D.
I don't know what the stack means.
Well, that's so when you're activating cards, right? So when you start to do a combat action and I act a card and you reply to it, it means you put the cards inside of a pile and they get resolved in reverse order, sort of like Magic.
That didn't happen in the game.
Yeah, this game is the stack light. In Magic, you can stack cards 3 or 4 effects deep. This game, it doesn't do that. Most games are single resolution. Most cards are single resolution, and you move on. Potentially, they could add some expansion decks with some more complex themes. But the game doesn't need that to be fun and to be strategic. Yeah. And I'm not sure it wouldn't just be overly complicated at that point.
Yeah, you don't really need to understand the stack, because Craig said it doesn't happen very much, because at most during an event like that, 2 cards are usually played. So it's not like you have 4 or 5 deep, as Angelo described. But clearly they put it in there with the intent. And I think you're right, Angelo, that maybe in the beginning they were sort of like, let's just take Magic, wrap some figures with it, and call it a day. And then all of a sudden, as they started doing it, maybe they figured they had something here and they made it into something cool. But maybe they need to rework the rule book a little bit. But I agree with you, Angelo. It's worth taking the time to get your head around the rules, and once you understand them, it's actually not that complicated, as we'll go through here, and it's actually a pretty meaty, nice little tactical game under all this stuff. So let's talk about setup. So, how do you set the table up? Now, as Angelo mentioned earlier, you can pop this box open and split it for a demo game, basically, but really it's designed for 2 players to each own their own box, much like a miniature war game. Get your starting forces out there. You got to make a big decision right up front. Are you going to fight inside or outside? It doesn't really matter too much, but it's just for fluff. All the board tiles are double-sided. One's kind of like Descent. Some of them are outdoors and some of them are indoors. Once you make the decision, you're going to take your tiles out, and each of you technically by the rules, if you're playing competitively, you each build your half of the board sort of separately. So I take my 2 big tiles and 2 little tiles and arrange them how I want, and Angelo does the same with his. And then when we're all done, we link the 2 sets together. We've built one larger battlefield.
Yeah.
Not a super amount of variety here, but as Angelo's mentioning, too, you could take some sets together and make some all kinds of wacky stuff if you really wanted to.
And it does change the experience. The treasure chests, as we'll talk about, matter. Terrain matters. The different armies have different speeds. There is a lot when you get all 5 sets going, and so what are you, 20 tiles? Yeah. There's a lot of playability and change that these tiles are going to get you. Actually,
too, when I played Craig last night, his 2 tiles combined with mine actually gave him an alcove on his side of the board that I had trouble cracking. So it was sort of interesting. Yeah, and you mentioned the chest. So after you get your board laid down, there's some icons on the board that tell you where chests go. So there's these chest tokens that are double-sided. One side just got a picture of a chest on it. The other side has some numbers. And you're going to shuffle these up face down and put them randomly on all the spots on the board where there's chest icons. And we'll tell those work later. And you're going to have to choose your commander tile, which is which leader is going to lead your forces of those 2 player mats. The commander tile's got a bunch of interesting, important information on it there. Angelo, what do you think? What's sort of the basic stuff on the commander tile we got to worry about?
Well, the talent that each commander will get, so that really changes the game quite a bit. Creature hand, your starting creatures and starting order hand. Mm-hmm. Then the key of the game are the morale and the leadership chart. And they're a little fiddly at first, but it's a game timer. 1 ticks down as you lose figures, and 1 ticks up as the game progresses. And I think that this is where the 2 pieces of innovation fall into this game, and they're hidden deeply. The fact that leadership ticks up, and the higher your leadership, the more levels of monsters you can have on the board, means the game gets more exciting versus traditional D&D miniatures, where at the end of the game you have 1 guy left. And the game turns become irrelevant. This game actually amplifies as it draws to a close. And then morale, those little treasure chests, this is not just a skirmish. You can mini quest, grab treasure chests, up your morale, and basically give yourself more wound points, if you will, allow yourself to fight longer, giving you more than 1 dimension to this game. And I don't love the little token on there. We'll talk about in a wrap up. There's got to be I need my FFG dials for this.
I know. I just said the same thing, Angela.
but it is these little commander cards are great. I would buy a pack of 100 of these if WotC sold them.
Oh yeah, and to make it clear, Angel's exactly right. There's 2 tracks on the cards that are really critical to the game, and these tracks are just a series of numbers for your leadership and your morale. And there's a little sort of diamond shaped token you put on top of the track with a hole in its track where you are on this meter, which is fine, except that if you bump the table or anything, these will slide around very easily, and if you're not don't remember where everything was, you can really lose some very important information. So that the design isn't the greatest ever, but it works really well, and the mechanics really shine in the game. What'd you think of those 2 mechanics, Craig?
I like the mechanics a lot. I agree with you guys. Although the big giant cardboard cutout things that you have to mark those 2 score points they're not tiny. Right. So even a little shift is still I never had a situation where I was like, oh crap, throw the game, we don't know what's going on. I would like it to yes, dials would be cooler. I would like to see of the components of the game, the actual playing cards and these little dashboards are the only really cheap, cheesy, weak links. And I would like to see this on either with a dial or with some sort of sliding mechanism on linen card and double-sided, so I had twice the many commanders to choose from. Would be awesome.
There you go.
But I'm thinking about mounting that magnetic stick that you make business cards out of on the back and seeing if I can magnetize that little diamond and solve the problem a little bit.
There you go.
Oh, that'd be a cool idea.
But anyway, you had these cards in front of you, and they have the little markers on them, and you set them up. And as Angelo mentioned, it's going to tell you how big your order hand is. So you're going to draw that many order cards, and it's going to tell you how big your creature size is. You're going to draw that many creature cards. So you really have 2 hands to manage, but it's not overwhelming because the creature hand, you don't look at all the time. So you put that face down. The order hand, you're kind of always watching. Now, the other thing you're going to track is your morale and leadership, and there's a spot that tells you where the track starts. You're going to put your tokens on those 2 tracks also. Now, the next thing you're going to do is figure out who player 1 is and deploy. So you can randomly determine who player 1 is, and then you're going to deploy your starting force. And how this works is when you put those tiles down, each player is going to have 1 tile that says start, the starting area of his battlefield. And that's where you're going to put your creatures. And you're going to look at the hand of creatures you just drew, And you're going to pick some of those and basically deploy them on the table. Now, there's a couple rules here. The first rule is the creature you deploy has to have a level. The sum of all the creatures you deploy, their total level sum, must be less than or equal to your current leadership. And at the beginning of the game, most leaders start around leadership 6, 7, or 8, somewhere in that area. So, and monsters, though, range in level from level 1 to like maybe an elf archer for the humans or a little goblin slinger or axe guy, all the way up to like, level 6 for maybe the Dracolich. And so, at the beginning of the game, you might have the Dracolich in your hand, and you could put him down with your starting 6 leadership. That's the only monster you got on the table. Whereas if I put down 3 weedy guys, I can now run around better and get to those chests Angelo described and jack up my morale. So it's really a choice of how you're going to do it, but you're also limited to the starting hand you get. So your opening gambit, it's not like a miniature war game where all your guys start on the table. You're only going to have access to those 3 or 4 or 5, however big your starting hand is, to choose from. So the leader you choose, the commander you choose, is also going to help you decide that, because some leaders have a larger creature hand, which will let you have more choices there, but will be hurting somewhere else. Maybe they have lower morale when they start.
And Russ alluded to something that it's asynchronous. So different leaders have different leadership points, different starting morale, creature hand size, and starting talents. So you can recreate that goblin horde army versus that elite orc army just by the leader that you choose. It adds another element, another dimension to the game.
Yeah, like I love one of the leader abilities on the undead I played last night. The leader I had, his ability was every time I kill someone else's model, my leadership goes up 1.
Brutal.
And I love it because A, it makes me get more models on the table faster, but B, it's fluffy because I'm the undead player, so as I kill you, I should be able to raise your guys. And it's sort of, that mechanic simply translates into the fact that I can have more models on the table now because I'm killing more of your guys and basically giving me more raw material to work with my magic.
And on a meta, though, it's brutal because the game is going to come down to a grinding of the morale. I mean, no, that's your leadership.
Yes,
yeah.
leadership.
So.
You just get a horde faster, but that means you got more things for me to kill to attack your morale, so that balance remains, and it just is a different play style.
Exactly. And it was tough against Craig's heroes because Craig's heroes have clerics, and he's able to heal his guys, so he'd fight me, he'd fall back into that alcove I mentioned, heal his guys up, and I was having a hard time killing anything in the beginning, so I couldn't even really leverage my ability. So it was a really interesting tactic, and Craig played that really well against me.
Oh, healing is so good in the early games.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about how the game actually plays. Now, whenever I teach a game, what do I always say, Craig?
What do you always say? I don't know. What do you always say?
I know.
Yes, Angelo.
Tell them how they win.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The very first thing you want to do, and Craig has already alluded to this, you want to reduce your opponent's morale to 0. So everybody has those 2 tracks. Leadership, which tells you how many guys you can have on the board at once. So leadership's all about how many monsters can I have on the table. You add other levels up. As long as the total levels are equal to or less than your leadership, you're good. But the other, and perhaps more important stat, is your morale. Typically, it starts, and where this thing starts runs the gambit. It's usually in the low teens, somewhere around 12 to 16, for depending on the leader you choose. But basically, when you kill an opponent's creature, whatever level you kill, so let's say I kill one of Craig's level 2 wood elves or whatever, he will then lose 2 morale because he lost a level 2 guy. If I kill his level 6 owlbear, he will lose 6 morale. So that's the other risk. If I summon my Dracolich early, and he's a powerful Dracolich, but I'm only starting the game with 12 morale, and I managed to lose my Dracolich early, I've just lost half my morale. I'm halfway to losing the game by losing that Dracolich early. So it gives you no scouting or anything ability. So you really got to watch that. So again, the goal is kill it. Now, there's 2 ways the game can end. One, you drop the guy's morale to 0, or if you end your turn with no models on the table, the game ends, and now the person with the most morale left wins. So if you get to a point where all your monsters are dead, or you're hand locked, where you've got all these high level monsters but not enough morale, not enough leadership left to get them out there or something, then you lose. If you don't lose, the game ends. Then you figure out who's got the best morale left. So 2 ways.
I've never had that happen.
It's very rare. Yeah. No,
it would have happened last night, but I made a deal with a drow. Because the orc was going to win, and So I was like, I can kill you. I have my most powerful guy in the game is standing in front of one of your weedy guys. If I kill you, that's the last guy you have on the table. Tell you what, I want my guy to make it back to my deployment zone. You leave him alone. I'll leave you alone. Unfortunately, I couldn't get back to my deployment zone in time, so the orc ended up winning anyway. But yeah, it was going to be brutal.
Yeah, nasty. So the game plays basically pretty simply. There's several phases. It's you go, I go. So Angelo's going to take us all these phases, and then when he's done, I'm going to do all my phases, and it's back to Angelo's turn, and we rinse and repeat until someone's out of morale or they're out of models. The very first phase is simply the refresh phase. Pretty simple here. What you're going to do is resolve any start of turn effects. So there might be cards in play that say, guys on fire, take 10 damage a turn, or whatever's happening. You do those. Next, you got to make sure you untap. So it's like Magic. All the cards that are turned sideways, turn them straight up. All your cards. The next thing you're going to do is draw an order card. Now, do not forget to draw an order card. This is really the only way. I mean, there are some other ways, but this is the primary way you get more order cards into your hand. Order cards are your lifeblood. Is that a fair statement, Angelo?
Oh, they are so good.
They are, and you've got to have them. Do not forget this, because then if you forget, and it's 3 turns later, and you're like, oh, I think I forgot 2 turns ago to draw, and then you're going to get in a big debate with your friend, and just don't forget to draw your order cards. Just do it. Just draw your order cards. All right. Next up, you're going to activate your dudes, right? Each of your models is going to get to activate. Now, when you activate your models, it's pretty simple. You're basically going to move, then take an action, or take an action and move. You cannot take an action in the middle of movement, right? I don't think you can. So you got to either choose to do it before
minor.
Well, minors can go anytime, right? But the standard action, the 2 big things. Move, take an action, right? Now, to move, how does movement work, Craig?
Movement is your speed, which is right on your card. Mm-hmm. And it's very straightforward. The game is on a grid, as we've already discussed. And you can go diagonally. The only diagonals you cannot take is in the dungeon. You can't go around corners. Right. So the dungeon corners are they're right angles. They're very, very, everything's squared off in the dungeons. Up in the surface world, everything is more rounded, and the book very clearly states that in the dungeons you can't cut corners by going diagonal at a corner, but you can in the upper level. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing to keep in mind of. You can move through friendly models, which is huge. You have to stop if you end any of your movement points in adjacent to an enemy, unless you have special abilities. And there are a lot of special abilities that allow you to ignore that. But in fact, there's another one of those sidebars, those pesky sidebars that we were talking about, actually defines this game as a game of exclusion. Yep. Which clearly means that there's a bunch of rules and then everything breaks them. So the main rule is if you move adjacent to an enemy, you can't move anymore. You're done. And if you start next to an enemy, your speed is 1, and you can move that 1 away from him, but all you can move is that 1. And then there's a bunch of different terrain types to worry about. There's difficult, which takes double to go through, right?
Yep.
Then there's obscuring, which is difficult. It's difficult and it blocks line of sight. Mm-hmm. Or you can get cover if you're inside it, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about attacking. Mm-hmm. And then there's dangerous, which doesn't block does it block? I think it might block line of sight. And if you step onto it, you take 10 points of damage automatically. And if you end your movement on it, you take another 10 points of damage automatically.
Yeah, dangerous is usually like the campfire's dangerous, or things like that.
Big giant braziers are dangerous.
Yep. And there's great little icons on the board to tell you this stuff. So it's very clear what is what. Which is
very, very clear what's going on.
Right. So that's moving. So you can move your guys around however you want. It's pretty simple. There's not really a running. I mean, there are some ability cards you can play, but there's no core run mechanics. So basically just moving.
Also obstacles.
Yes. And let's see. So now, as Craig mentioned, you can take as many minor actions as you want. Now, a minor action there's not really a core minor action. Some cards have them, but mostly you're going to play some of those command cards to do minor actions, right? So, Angelo, can you think of some example of minor actions you might take?
I am holding 2 in my hand that I love, and it demonstrates the depth of this game. So one is a level 1 action card, order card you can play on a Constitution character called Reckless Attack. Mm-hmm. So you take 10 damage to yourself, and you do an extra 30 points of damage to your opponent. Right. So they're math hammering, and they're like, oh, I'm not worried about that Goblin Wolf Rider. I have 40 hit points left. He does 20. You run up there, you throw down this card, knock their guy out. Then the other side, this was just fun. It's called Grovel. You lose 1 morale point off of your tracker to prevent 30 damage to that creature from a source. So the opposite holds true. I throw my reckless attack. I think I got you. You do a little groveling. You drop your morale, and suddenly I'm staring at an owlbear that's wounded and angry. Nice. And that makes this game different every time you play it. And you can't choose your order cards, right? You talked about drawing one per turn. Yeah. There's no dice. The order card is the random element to this game.
Yeah, we'll get into the comment in a second, but you're right. So Angelo, there's a lot of cool, juicy stuff in what Angelo just described there. So first he mentioned there's a level on the order card, right? So basically when you play an order card, the creature you're going to play it on, you always play an order card on something. Some creature that's on the board is actually activating the order. And they're restricted by level. So if you've got a level 2 order card, you have to play it on a creature that is level 2 or better. There's some bonuses to that, but that's the basic rule. Then in addition to that, there's ability restrictions. So just like D&D, your creature cards all say things like there's a little section under their name that'll have the charisma, dexterity, and it'll be all the stats from D&D, the 3-letter abbreviation. So your CHA, you got dex, maybe you got int on that guy, right? Intelligence, strength, whatever. So a creature might have strength and con. It might be a strong, tough creature, right? Then some of these ability cards are going to have the same symbols on them, strength and con. So if an ability card's got con, like Angelo mentioned, it's hard to hurt you, you can play that on a creature that's the right level and has the Constitution tag word, right? So it's kind of cool because some of these cards are like spells, like Craig pulled out Fireball, right? Well, Fireball requires an intelligence stat, so I can't have my high Constitution Skeleton Warrior casting Fireball because it does the intelligence stat, so it keeps everything in the right spot. Now, one other little restriction that's kind of cool here is there's an affinity. Some cards have affinity on them, like affinity undead or affinity vampire or affinity whatever. If your creature has the keyword that matches that affinity, you can ignore the level restriction. So if it's a level 6 spell, but it's got affinity vampires, your level 2 vampire can cast that spell because he's the vampire. Now, Angelo gave a couple interesting examples. He gave an example of a standard order card, and he gave an example of an interrupt order card, right? Those are two cards that would use a full action to tap your guy. But when you're during your action, you can take as many minor actions as you want. Some of these order cards have minor on them. And to show you even more depth of the game, one of them, for example, is I had a card called Magic Sword, and it says keyword humanoid. So any humanoid can be equipped with this magic sword for a minor action. And you put it under the creature's card, and it's got a little bottom part that sticks out and describes what now has been enhanced by this creature. And with the magic sword, you can't prevent any damage this creature does. So it's a really cool way to stack your guys up. So for a minor action, I can put a magic sword on somebody. Maybe I can give them some armor. Maybe I can make them move an extra square. Things like that. So all the minor actions don't affect the total things you can do that turn. And you can play as many minor actions as you want in your turn on a creature as long as it matches the level and the ability restrictions, right?
I never noticed that little banner was designed to jut out from under your card. That's brilliant.
Oh, it's awesome, yeah. So, and it's great, too, because Craig had a little card sticking out from his guy. He gave a shield to one of his guys. It was like, reduce 40 damage and discard the shield. So it's right there sitting there. And then I got a card that actually blasted the shield out of his hand. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it was wicked awesome.
It was awesome. So that's your minor actions. Now, also, so you move your guy. You can take some minor actions with him. Maybe you give him a sword, you give him a shield, whatever. Then you can do a standard action. Now, if you don't have a card you want to play on them, one of the most common standard actions is to attack. We'll get into combat in a second. If you attack, you just tap the card. Turn it sideways, do the attack, you're done. Or you can play an order card. Now, some of the order cards say standard on the top of them, telling you it's a standard action. And as Angelo mentioned, many of them say things like, perform a melee attack at plus 30 damage, meaning that you do the melee attack your guy normally does, plus an additional 30 points because it's a reckless charge, and you're taking 10 damage yourself, but you do plus 30 damage, or whatever. They do all kinds of bonuses here. Some of them increase range attacks. Like I had one that was like Flaming Strike, which adds plus 20 damage because it adds fire, and I did it with my Dragon's Breath weapon, so it was kind of cool because he breathes lightning and then it added fire, so it was like a fire lightning breath. It was kind of cool. From a Dracolich casting a spell, which is awesome. So it was pretty cool. So that's how that works. So basically, a lot of these standard actions augment your attack ability. You're going to tap your card. That's very important when your card's tapped and not. And you want to look through the rulebook very carefully and get when you're supposed to tap and when you're not, because it's such a huge centerpiece of the game that apparently it's easy to miss because Craig and I missed when you're supposed to tap and untap all the time. All right, so let's talk about combat. Angelo's already alluded to it basically, but Craig, how's it going to work?
Well, first you're going to declare an attack, and of course, as in all these games, you've got two different times. You've got either ranged attack or melee, and your range is going to be decided based on your card, and your card's going to have these cool it's all icon-driven or keyword-driven, which is great. There's that little bow and arrow which is going to show you how much damage you do when you attack, and then in parentheses, how many squares away they have to be, or they can be. So, for instance, I am currently looking at my level 4 War Wizard, and he's got a little bow and arrow thing, 30 points of damage up to 10 squares away. So that means if I'm using him, I can shoot at somebody up to 10 squares away, and it's going to do 30 damage automatically. There is no dice. All you're going to be looking at is how much damage that attack does, and that's how much damage the attack does. There's no random element at all. There's no armor either. That's sort of been factored into the how many hit points each creature has. And of course, you've got all kinds of cards that can boost that. I've got cards that can, boost my melee damage. I've got cards that can boost my my ranged damage. So you can buff your guy up with your cards. You can defend with a card if you're untapped. You can defend with a card that the cards say minor, standard, and then of course the all popular immediate. The only thing is you can't use an immediate if you're tapped.
Right.
So basically you're going to get one chance to use an immediate, and then you're going to be tapped. So you've got all kinds of defense cards. So it's not a guarantee. It's not like, like Game of Thrones where you're looking at it and you're just going to do the math in your head, and all you got to worry about is, one little number. It's basically you're going to do this much damage, but then is he going to have a card that's going to negate it all? Is it going to negate some of it? My personal favorite is the orcs seem to have just a stack of, or was it the drow? I think it might have been the drow. One of them had a stack of cards in his hand that was basically negate all damage and do 10 to you. I was like, crap. And this was before we realized that an immediate tapped you. So I was like, okay, I attack with this model. Negate 20 damage and do 10 to you. I was like, how many times can you do this? Well, we found out that once, really. But it's really cool because it's all contained in the cards. So you're not memorizing tables. You're not memorizing, stats. It's literally on the cards. It's not like you have a huge, overwhelming hand of cards to deal with. You've got your creature that's attacking. You're going to say, well, and each one of them, well, not each one of them, but many of them has a special rule on it. So you're going to make sure the special rule isn't going to be activated. Then you're going to see whether it's the little sword icon is you got to be adjacent, or the bow and arrow icon and it's got range. And then that's just going to tell you what damage you do. Then you look really quickly in your order cards. Is there any way for you to add that damage to it? Then you tell them what you're about to do. And then they're going to either defend or not defend, but depending on what kind of hand they have. And the whole thing is very quick. That's what makes the game really quick, I think, is that it's so card driven, and so much of the game is in these cards, which are cool and they're fluffy and they're, it's got a level and it's got your attributes that it has to key to, and then it has affinities if it has those. But at the same time, it's in one glance, you know exactly what that card's going to be able to do.
Right.
And so it's very cool. Keep in mind the whole tapped issue. At the beginning of your turn, you untap everything. When you take an action, you tap yourself. However, at the end of your turn, you untap again. So it's basically you're going to be able to kind of get, using cards, an action and then an immediate action. But there are all kinds of cards that untap you again, which I didn't understand how. I have a card that untaps you. I was like, why would I care? Now I care because it's really super important. Line of sight is awesome because it's very easy. It's if any corner of the square you're in can see any corner of the square the other guy is in, you can shoot. But cover is again very easy to figure out. If you do not have line of sight from one corner of your square to every corner of his square, then he has the potential of having cover. And the effect that does is if you're untapped, you can tap yourself to negate all damage from one ranged attack.
Right.
So if you know there's a big monstrous lightning bolt coming your way and you're in a bush, you can wait for it and then dodge at the last second.
Right. And basically, as Craig said, you do the damage and you take some tokens and mark how much damage your creature took. And when the amount of damage on that creature equals his total hit points, he's dead. And when he dies, you take him off the board, you remove his card from the game, and you're going to drop that many morale equal to the creature's level who died. And that's pretty much the combat system. Now, One other thing that I keep forgetting to use, and it's a huge ability, and that's called cowering. So when you're hit by the enemy, you can always have the option to choose to cower. Cowering does not require you to tap, so you can do it whether you're tapped or untapped. Doesn't matter. And when you cower, you basically prevent all damage to your guy. He's basically cowering. They're going, please don't kill me. And when you do that, you prevent all damage from a single source. However, you lose 1 morale point for every 10 points of damage you block.
And that's huge.
This is huge.
Yeah.
But there's tactical stops in the parts of the game when you want to. For example, I had 6 morale left in the game with Craig. And Craig shot my dragon who had 20 health left.
Yes.
And I think he shot me with that game at 30 points of damage or something.
Something like that.
So if I take 30 points of damage, my dragon will die and I will go to 0 and I will lose the game. 0 morale. But if the dragon cowers and he hits me for 30 points, I will prevent 30 points of damage and lose 3 morale, right? But I'm not out of the game and the dragon's still alive.
Yep.
So if that was Craig's last dude this turn, I have lived to fight another round. I may not still not win the game, but I'm still in the game. So there are times when you're not going to want to, or maybe it's just early in the game, you got plenty of morale, you got lots of treasure, whatever, and you got a really key piece and you want to foil your opponent by staying alive a little bit longer. That's always an option to you. And as Craig hinted too, what's cool about it is, even though armor's not directly represented in the game, it's just in your hit points, by adding a little thing like the Constitution stat, I had a level 2 skeleton, right, who's got a little model with a shield and a mace. And I played a card called Careful Attack. So Careful Attack does is I move my advance, and I can attack Craig for my normal damage plus 10, but also I slide the card under my guy, because basically he's raising his shield, and now the first time I take damage, it's reduced by 10 points. So I come in there, I get a hit on Craig. Craig returns his hit, I reduce 10 damage with Careful Attack. Then he goes to hit me again, and I've got a Constitution ability that basically blocks 50 points of damage. And he hit me with a big 50-point damage thing. So this little 50 hit point skeleton went from, absorbing 50 hit points to absorbing, I think, over 110 hit points before he died. All because he's got the Constitution stat and I had the right cards. So if you save your hand up right and have the right guys, tough guy in the center, but, if you didn't have a Constitution-based skeleton there, even those cards wouldn't help me. So it's really cool that you get this fluffy feeling of like, he's got his shield up, he's blocking big damage. Oh, he's getting tired, he's dead, kind of thing. Really neat. So that's the whole combat system. Angelo, what do you think of the combat system in the game?
It plays a lot quicker than it sounds, and it is very robust. So you know what the card does, and then you base your strategy on that, but you've got those cards in your hand. And Craig said it, you untap for both phases, your attack and your defense phase, different than what we're used to, and that really is a resource out of your hand. You run out of order cards, you start getting really desperate.
Yeah. You start getting pummeled.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you understand the combat system, the depth of it, that's when you realize this isn't the tacked-on game and a reason to buy 12 miniatures. This thing is real and expandable, and building that order deck becomes pretty important.
Oh, yeah. So, and I know we spent a lot of time describing this system because there's a lot of, and I wanted to make sure we got through the depth of this, but really, it's a very fast-paced game. What you're really doing here is your turn, you're going to refresh your stuff, you untap your cards, you're going to activate all your models, just basically move and attack. Remember, there's no dice or anything. You're just going to be like, I'm going to do 20 points to your guy. Can you stop it? No. Okay, take 20 points. Moving on. Boom, boom, boom. So you do that. Then the next phase is the deploy phase. Here's another important tip. At the start of the deploy phase, you increase your leadership by 1.
Don't forget this.
Don't forget this. And this is what Angelo was describing earlier where the game escalates. So each round your leadership's going up by 1, which means you remember your leadership. The whole goal of leadership is it represents the total amount of levels you can have on the board at once of your forces. And there's no quote-unquote summoning cost or deployment cost. It's just that you can bring out more guys as long as the total levels on the board are less than or equal to your total leadership, right? So if I started the game with 6 guys, 6 leadership, and I got 6 levels on the table, and my level's gone up 1 more point, and I got a level 1 guy in my hand, I can bring him right out. Boom. Or if Craig kills one of my level 4 guys, I can bring out a level 5 guy now because my level 4 guy's dead, but I also went up once, so I can bring a level 5 guy right to the party. And if none of my guys are dying, my leadership's slowly going up, I can bring out more and more guys. And as Angelo said, all of a sudden, boom, 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 I've got quite a little army out there.
Now, Craig mentioned the game of exclusion. So I've got a general named Snig the Axe. He breaks this rule where you deploy, and during the start of your deployment phase, you deploy at the refresh phase. So you kill my Horned Devil, you free up 6 levels. I now throw down 3 level 2s, and I get to use them that turn. So again, I'm changing the game based on these phases.
Now also,
Game's an exception I misread, but yes. And that's brutal. That's ridiculous.
Another really cool exception for the undead, it's very fluffy, is I managed to get the Lich King out on the table. Now, Lich Kings, if anybody's played D&D before, Lich King should strike terror into the heart of any D&D player because he's a Lich King. Now,
He is Lich King.
his stats are pretty good. Yeah, he's got a lot of hit points. That's good. But his little ability is one sentence. When you deploy a new undead creature, you can put him adjacent to the Lich King. This is huge because normally when you summon guys, you put them in the start zone, and usually the battle's somewhere in the middle of the table. But if you can run your Lich King up, now you've got new guys summoning in right next to your Lich King. They're summoning in front of the Lich King, so you can't attack him because there's this giant level 6 guy that just showed up in front of the Lich King. And then if you don't kill that guy, there's another guy coming out right behind him. And if you do kill that guy, you give me more summoning points to bring more dudes out. So all of a sudden, I'm in your grill just springing undead out of the woodwork, throwing them at you, which is just cool. And very fluffy.
It's like a summoning circle you take with you.
Exactly right. He's a Lich King.
By the way, the game has summoning circles too.
Oh, yes, there's magic circles, which are great because you look at the board and you think, these magic circles are pretty. I wish they had an effect in the game. And nowhere in the core rules are they mentioned at all. However, certain models will say things like, if your sorcerer happens to be in a summoning circle, all your goblins get the new ability, plus, can absorb 10 points of damage for free because basically they've all got little magic shields on now. Things like that. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap.
My war wizard can actually deploy into an arcane portal.
There you go. And there's other cool models too, like the Shadow Beast can show up when he summons, can show up in any wall on the table. He comes basically out of the walls, out of the shadows. It's just awesome stuff like that. That's totally fluffy and
it's
very
built
simple.
right into the cards because the cards are such an essential element to the game. They allow all of this stuff.
And I think that's why the game is feeling cooler as time goes on, because now that we've had a chance to see their vision with all the different rules for each of these factions and how they feel right, it's like, wow, there's a lot of depth here on this very simple set of mechanics. After the deploy phase, you bring your new monsters out, and as Angelo mentioned, you can't really do anything with this turn because it's the end of the turn, unless you have that special rule that guy has. And then last is cleanup. Cleanup's very simple. There's any end turn effects. Some cards say they do things at the end of the turn. Do those. Untap all your creatures again. Very important. Craig and I missed this rule. We thought you only untapped at the beginning, but you untap at the beginning of your turn and at the end of your turn, meaning your creatures are always ready to do at least one thing during their turn, and they're also ready to do at least one thing during your opponent's turn, all those immediate react cards and dodging and cover and all that stuff.
Right.
And then you're going to draw back your creature hand size. So your order cards, you only get one a turn ever, pretty much, unless you got a special ability. But with your creature cards, after you summon your creatures, you're going to draw your creature hand size back to whatever the limit is based on your leader. So you're going to always have a nice hand of creatures to draw from next turn and be kind of knowing what's on deck.
Yeah.
Last thing in the cleanup phase, you're going to check for the end of the game. Are we over? Did someone run out of morale, or can I not deploy more models? If so, if my deployment phase happens and I can't get another guy on the table and I'm out of models on the table, game over. We check it out and that's it. Yeah, that's really the mechanics of the whole game right there.
Yeah. Yep.
A couple quick things. Chests. We mentioned these chests on the board, right? These treasure chests. And the treasure chest, basically, I think we're doing this wrong too, Craig. When you walk onto a treasure chest.
Yeah, we were doing it wrong.
Okay,
yeah.
So you walk onto the treasure chest, and for free, the treasure chest flips over and reveals a number. Now, in the beginning of the game, remember, you shuffle the chests up. You didn't see what the numbers were, and you put them on the board on different spots. You flip it over. It might have a number on there. It might be a 1, might be a 2, might be a 3. I don't think it goes higher than 3. Maybe they do. I don't remember.
I don't think. I got them right here.
No, it's 2 and 3.
No,
1, 2,
3.
Okay. When you see the number, you're going to take the chest token off the table, and you're going to replace it with that number of loot tokens, which look like piles of gold. So if it had a 3 on it, you're going to put 3 loot tokens on that space. Then, as an action, a creature that is on that space can tap himself, spend his action, to harvest one of those treasure tokens, and you'll gain 1 morale for every one of those you do. So as Angelo mentioned, you can play the long game here and try to stay away from your opponent and be cagey and sneak out with a bunch of weedy gits and grab all the treasure and all of a sudden take your starting morale from like 13 to maybe 21 like Craig did. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Which is, well, he also had this cool event card, which means one of his creatures deployed in my deployment zone.
It was awesome.
On my side of the table. And then if he could get that guy back to his starting zone, he got 4 morale.
Yeah. Oh, you got to love that. That's just fun.
Which was awesome. So he basically had information.
My commander's special rule was any adventurer can, and you could only do that to an adventurer, deploy in the enemy's deployment zone. And my guy's special rule was each adventurer you control can use a standard action to move up to its speed. So it was a very fast guy to start with, and it was like 14 squares across the board.
I could not catch him. So I think he only used his commander's ability once that game, but it gave him 4 morale, which in like a typical, it's a quarter more morale than you start with most people. So it was huge.
Oh, no, it was a huge thing.
And I had never, at that point, I was looking at this going, I'm never going to win this. I'm just going to have fun. So that's pretty much it. So that's really the whole game. That's the whole thing. What do you guys think? Let's talk a little bit about just some basic. What are your thoughts after playing a few games about basic strategies and tactics? Angelo, you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's going to evolve a lot. Up until recently, I stuck with the box sets as is. I didn't mess around with the order decks. So you'd wind up with a grip full of order cards that maybe didn't match the models on the table, and you felt a little underpowered. They get a little frustrating. But when you really start to understand it, right, I'm going to take a couple of Speed 8 Wolves, level 2, so I can try to get at least one in my starting grip, and that's my treasure chest runner. That's the guy that's going to do it. I'm going to get that troll out. He's going to regenerate. I'm going to make sure I have his strength and constitution. I'm going to build my command group to play my order cards. The game explodes with options at that point. So the strategy and tactics of a core set are fun, but you feel like it's missing something. When you get to that more advanced level where you start to modify your 12 and your deck, there's so much you can do with this game. And that fifth set unlocked it. It's a lot more complicated than the rule book implies. You can play it without the complexity. An 8-year-old can play it. A 5-year-old can play it. I've done it. But two experienced gamers can sit down with this game and really feel like they're having a battle.
Nice. Yeah, Craig, what are your thoughts on some tactics?
Angelo just scared me.
Well, I think what's interesting about this game is, I think what's nice about it is it can appeal to the deck building sort of, Magic player who wants to really min-max his force, because you're allowed, as it mentions in the book, you can go through and pick the creatures from the different sets and build your own force. And I think it does have built-in leveling, game balancing, because your leader restricts the amount of levels you can have on the table. Your leadership does. And so if I took, all the best creatures, all the level 6 guys, that's great, except I can't afford to have them all out at once. So having a bunch of level 6 guys is awesome, but if 2 die, I've lost the game for most leaders, right? And I'm not going to have more than 2 out at once for a large chunk of the game. So You're going to want to balance your force. You're going to want to figure that out. But I think it's there. But I think also it plays great with just the starter boxes as they are, which is great too. So I think there's a lot going on there. I love the fact, as Angelo mentioned, you can play the defensive game. You can turtle up. You can play the offensive game. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of depth. And it does seem to fit for me. I like the cinematic moments the cards generate.
Right. Well, you talk about the 2 big guys. Tapping also, because you have to tap to do things. If you have a couple of big guys versus a swarm, you can't use all your order cards, and that starts to limit your options.
Yeah, exactly.
It also, now just listening to Angelo, I suddenly realize why there's a market on eBay for just the models and their cards as singles. I'm like, oh geez, so you're telling me that now we can oh god, now I don't know.
It's dangerous.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to.
But if everybody else is doing it, then
no. But you can say we're going to do a starter box game. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess.
Just like Magic. I mean, it's definitely got that magic. You can see this has been informed. And what I like about it is, I'm just not a big card guy. I mean, card games are fun, but I like this because also what I like about this is, I know all the Magic players are going to email me, so just don't. But in Magic, and it just remains to be seen here, but in Magic, you can build a certain deck that basically tabletop strategy becomes less important because the deck build is just going to beat the other deck build. Right. In this game, though, there's so much tabletop interaction that that may be, but I don't know that I've really felt killed by their creatures. I haven't really had that moment where oh my god, if he hadn't had that owlbear, I'd have won. It's almost like I feel more like I could beat by tactics. So I don't know. I haven't played it enough yet, but we'll see.
No, I think you're right. I think the variance level that the order cards brings is much lighter than the variance in Magic. So it's less likely that I'm going to top deck an order card and blow you out because I put it in my deck.
Right. Plus, there's not infinite range, right? So there's no way I can't just surprise you with here's the card that kills your level 10 creature, because my level 10 creature's got to be within range of your guy, right? I know what level your guy is, which tells me how much magic he could throw. So if there is a card that does 100 points of damage, you've got a level 2 guy out there, well, he's not going to be casting that spell.
Yeah.
So there's more going on there. You have more visibility, I think, to some of that stuff than you'd have in that kind of game. Yeah. Not anything wrong with Magic, just saying. So let's take to our final thoughts, because we're already starting to bleed into it. But before we get there, we should probably describe the patent-pending D6G rating system. Craig, this patent's been pending now for 5 years. These guys are getting on this.
They do not rush anything.
No. So, Angelo, last time you did a great job describing the system. So, in the style of a past D&D miniature aficionado, opening a sealed random booster, hoping to get the last few models of the collection before it rotated out, please describe the patent-pending D6G rating system.
Oh, I so remember that. Christmas morning, I wake up and there's that last box of Lords of Madness, and I tear open the box, I dump out the models, I peel the little plastic envelope off of all but the last model, and it's repeat, and I realize there's one more at the bottom of the box under the cards. And I pull it out. It's in my hand, and I wonder what it is. Will it be the best or the worst? So let's say a 6+. Only 1 out of 6 gamers is going to like it. I open my hand, and seriously, it's the crocodile. What am I going to do with another crocodile? I can't whip out crocodiles in the middle of a role-playing game. My players will never play again. But someone needs a crocodile, so 1 out of 6 gamers really wants that crocodile. What if it's the Goblin Slinger? Hordes of goblins. There's a game. Everyone uses goblins. I've got a lot of goblins, but most gamers need a few goblins. So maybe that's 5+. 2 out of 6 gamers are hoping it's that goblin. But half the gamers, 4 out of 6, open their hand and they're looking for the Iron Duke of Hell. Right? That guy is going to put the party down. You put him on the tabletop, and he is relevant. You're happy with him. He's a $12 model. He costs the same as the booster pack. You're break even, and you got an Iron Duke of Hell. That's tough to beat, but it can be beat. 3+. The Elder Copper Dragon. I don't know how you didn't notice you were holding a dragon. It's a $30 model. 3 out of 6 gamers are wishing for that Elder Copper Dragon. But that's not the end. That's not the real reason to buy a Lords of Madness box set. 2+. The Elder Blue Dragon. I mean, what do you do with him? Do you play him? He's a $55 model. I'd sell him and buy 3 more booster packs. I mean, 5 out of 6 gamers are saying, Mom, this is the best Christmas ever. An Elder Blue Dragon. But what is a reroll? Right? We talk about a reroll. So that's a half a step better. That's you sell your Elder Blue Dragon on eBay, and then you go out and you buy that limited edition Orcus model that's like a foot tall. You love that. That's a 2+ with a reroll. Orcus, I will trade my Elder Blue Dragon for your Orcus model right now. That's the D6 D&D rating system.
Very nice.
Always loved having Angelo on. I feel like the pressure is totally gone.
That is awesome, Angelo.
Thank you for letting me do that. I enjoyed that.
That was awesome. So we got to Angelo's voice a chance to recover here. Craig, why don't you go first and let us know what you thought of this game system?
Okay, my final thoughts. I'm all nervous. Now I'm thinking I don't know I don't know what the future will hold with this game now. I never even thought about opening it up past the faction boxes. But so my whole theory is based on the faction boxes. Okay. I love the way the stories that happen while you're playing these games. They're really, really fun. They're cinematic. They're D&D. There's no denying that it's D&D. You've got force. I've got a and I'm looking through my spells and stuff, and I've got like a push thing and a fireball, and I mean, exactly what's happening. You've got the half-orc rogue, you've got the dwarven warrior. You know exactly what's going on with who's doing what and what they can do. The monsters are the same way. I love how fast the game is. I love that my turn is like your turn, my turn. I loved that. I love the way it scales with multiple players. Last night we had a 3-way game, and it was great because the puzzle pieces all fit together to make a really cool 3-way dungeon. And it's actually in the back of the rule book. It shows you how to put 3 sets together to make a battlefield for 3 people, and how to put 4 sets together to make a battlefield for 4 people. And the puzzle pieces all fit, and the tunnels all match, and it's not like weird and it's not like there's just an empty blank, nothing ends in just an empty black wall or whatever. So I really, really, really liked that too. And the the quality of the map tiles is fantastic. They're heavy linen stock. The artwork is great. The art direction is awesome. Very clear icons. So it's a bush, but it also has the little icon on it, so that that you're not supposed to. That you can't just walk over it or look through it with impunity. I really like the artwork on the cards. All the artwork throughout the whole game is awesome. My concerns are the quality of the cards themselves. As I've already mentioned, they're very, very well, they're not very flimsy, but they're flimsy enough that they start to bend almost immediately. So they're not like really heavy card. They're the exact same quality as the adventure games. So if you're familiar with the Dungeons and Dragons adventure games, it's the exact same thickness and quality, and they tend to bend almost immediately out of the box, which is unfortunate. Again, as I said during achievements, I'm really not impressed with the painting. Actually, some of them are great. Some of them are way better than others. A lot of the undead box that Russ was using last night looks awesome. Like right out of the box, really, really nice stuff. A lot of the adventurers in the hero box that I got, like the War Wizard, his eyes were just white dots. There was no attempt to make them fit into his actual eye sockets or have pupils or anything. So he looked kind of like a zombie. That's the treatment that most of the models' eyes got. So I'm not for whatever, like the Star Wars models always seemed to be a much better paint job, but maybe it's easier to paint a stormtrooper. I don't know. I fear it's interesting. I have in my little bullets, and I think this is exactly what Angelo was referring to as a plus. I fear that it can be matrix gamed. And that somebody can go, oh yes, clearly with my the potential of this particular, I've got 12 cards and I'm going to be able to pull one of these, and so I'm going to have 3 of those, I'm going to have 7 of those, I'm going to stack my order deck so that I've got 15 of those, so I know exactly whenever I have a hand of 5, I can do this, that, the other thing. And that's exactly how you hear a lot of people, Magic players and stuff, like how they're going to structure their decks and stuff, and that would break this game for me, and I wouldn't have any fun. So that's a big fear of mine, is that locally, because most of the guys who are all of a sudden into it, after I was proselytizing this game last night. I was preaching to the choir. I was hallelujahing in Myriad. Amen. And by the time I was done, pretty much everybody in our gaming group was trying to figure out whether they were going to pick up the Sting of Loth or the Goblin box, which is all that Myriad had left by the time we stripped them bare, or if they were going to try to get one of the other ones. But most of those guys are Magic the Gathering guys. And so if that's the natural path that their mind takes, then to me, this goes from a really fun, light, fast game to, oh crap, now I'm going to have to go on eBay and I'm going to have to find all these models, or is it going to be fun for me just using my box when you've got, like, I'm going to put 4 of these little dogs in there because I know that they can do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not saying that's not a valid way to play it, and I'm not saying that that's not fun. It's not fun for me, and so that kind of makes me a little nervous. And having played the orcs against the orcs last night, they are crazy resilient with a lot of healing. What was the big monster? I think it was the owlbear. The owlbear has 100 hit points, and over the course of 3 turns, the owlbear took over 180 hit points, and it just kept healing back up again because of a couple other models that were nearby that were able to heal it back up. And it was just like, the poor Chris was playing the drow, and he thought, he was like, I do this with these 3 cards and boom, 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 you're dead. Oh, nope, I've got this card, and then I've got this guy who's got this card, and then I've got this guy who's got this card, and you are now tapped, so you can't defend yourself, and all these 3 models attack your Drider, and they do a combination of 140 points, and you're dead. I was like, wow, the orcs. So I don't know that they're imbalanced. That was just one game, but they seemed very resilient to me.
He must have burnt his whole hand, though, doing that, right?
What's that?
He must have burnt his whole order hand doing that.
Well, no, because he was holding his hand back for the whole game.
So he was waiting for that one opportune moment to do it.
Waiting for that opportunity, but at the same time, he had those cards. I don't have any cards that can do any of that.
Right.
Like, I have cards that are like, avoid 20 points here, or avoid 30 points there, or heal 10 points there.
Right.
I don't have, like, he had 2, and they were both minor actions, and they each healed 40 points.
Wow.
So that was one guy walks up and does minor, there's 80 points healed.
Well, you got to kill him then.
And yeah, well, clearly. So I'm not saying they're unbalanced. I don't know that they're unbalanced. I just know that I was watching them, and holy crap, are they. I was very glad that was happening in another part of the dungeon. Let's put it that way. So I'm having a blast. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm now a little more nervous about what the future may hold. But I'm going to give this game a 4+. Mm-hmm. So I would say there's a 50-50 chance that your average gamer is going to enjoy it. I'm going to give it a +1 if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons as a general theme.
All right.
So that's where I stand.
That's pretty good. Angelo, you want to go next?
Absolutely. I really like the way the game escalates. I enjoy a game that the best turn is the last turn. I think this game does this. Yeah. You get more out of your models and more out of the game. I started off, I thought it was a great way to get a warband for a mini game. Theme to work well. I thought the price was right. The extra bits made it even better. But the game is going far, and I think it has a ton of potential. I don't know what WotC's plan is for it, but I see two paths that a game group can take, and I could put a foot in either. The fun beer and pretzel game that it is out of the box. It's light, it's easy to play, it's entertaining. I think it's infinitely expandable still in the beer and pretzel range. You could bust out your maps from your D&D 4th edition modules. You could buy your tiles from your online vendors, and you could play game after game. You could start coming up with quests and adventures. And I think this game could get really expandable and a lot of fun very fast. Or you could go the other way and go highly competitive and turn it into a min-max. And I think each game group's going to go a different direction. And I think the game is great in both of those directions. There are days I like beer and pretzels games, and I have enough competitive games, but I do tend to push a little bit into min-maxing. I am guilty of that. Storage is a big deal when you have this many cards in your deck building. I've got to figure out what to do with that. And I really am excited to see when gamers start to come up with the cards for past D&D models. I, for one, want to get my Orcus model out of the closet, use them on the tabletop, and fight your whole war band with my one Orcus model, or that 18-inch red dragon. I want to send my heroes of Cormyr against that dragon and kill him in a competitive table. So, plea to the gamers out there, if you love this kind of thing, let's see some fan support for this and get some more cards. I'd love to use my collection. I'm with Craig. I think it's a 4+ as is. It started off lower for me until it expanded in. I would have said it was a 6+. I just wanted models. I read the rule book. I don't think it got any better. But they hooked into me with the themes and the continued pushing of the game. I'm in a 4+, and I push it into a 3+. That if you've got a game group that will have a skirmish campaign that can escalate and be fun beyond just the tiles in the game and the cards that it came with, I think you've got a great game here.
Nice rating. I agree with everything. I'm going to agree with both you and Craig. Craig mentioned the story that unfolds, and this is what really hooked me was when I started playing. There was a scene where, in my Undead versus Craig's Adventurers scene, where my Dracolich advanced, my Lich King advanced, and I had another skeleton in there. And I grouped them all together because I was trying to get around this little alcove that Craig had built. And I'm like, AoE, he's not going to make AoE effects. What could possibly go wrong? And of course he had an AoE effect because the wizard walked out around the corner and hit me with, guess what? A freaking fireball. Of course he had a fireball. He's a freaking wizard from Dungeons & Dragons. Of course he did. Hits me with a fireball, damages all of them. Then I'm thinking, okay, I got hit by a fireball. That sucks. But at least that freaking wizard is now standing in the hall, and I'm going to blast him with my dragon and light him on fire. But before I could do that, in the same activation, Craig's ranger walks up next to the wizard, plays a card, I think it's called shove or something, or step aside, and he uses his strength to push the wizard out of the way. He gets to shift the wizard 4 squares. The wizard goes back behind the alcove, and they're just like, ha-ha, shoot me instead, dragon. And of course I did. I killed the friggin' ranger. But still, the wizard was safe and got away. It was just a great, cool scene. And again, you get a little Dungeons & Dragons moment right there in a great, quick board game. I think I really have to give Wizards of the Coast credit on this because I was with Angelo originally. I was like, oh, it's a nice box set. But really, there's 3 things of value. We mentioned earlier, you're getting the figures for Dungeons & Dragons, the RPG, which most RPG guys want. You're getting the dungeon system stuff, which is great for all the different Wrath of Ashardalon and Ravenloft and all those. You got all the cards in there for that. And then plus, it's this great battle game we just described. So there's really, if you play any of those other systems, the value just, I think, doubles in this box set. Mm-hmm. It does also get rid of, I just think it's a good value in general because you're getting 12 pre-printed models for $40. That's a pretty good price, especially when you look at what the blind purchase guys used to cost for what? Wasn't it like $12 for 2 or 3?
Well, yeah, so you get like 4 commons and 3 commons and uncommon and a rare and Well, you had to spend a lot of money to get the full 60. It was burning cash, and they were irrelevant together. You could get them all and not have a warband.
Right. So now, like you want to, as I think you mentioned earlier, Angelo, if you want to, or Craig mentioned, if you want to do a Drow adventure, grab the Drow box. You got every model you need for D&D Drow module. I love the feeling of the game. It feels very, very tactical on the table, and I like that part of it. You really feel like, because the removal of luck, it's really down to what I've got in my hand and what do I think Craig has in his hand. And is he the kind of guy that's going to save up all of his cards to have a bunch of defense, or is he playing offense and kind of working those through? Or do I think he already played all his defense last turn?
Okay, Fazzini, just make your call.
Is he the kind of player that would put his order cards in front of me?
Right, exactly. And then there's cool stuff too, like the Goblin Wolves have this ability called, when they hit you, they don't do much damage, but they tap you. So I go in my Goblin Wolf, hit you for 10, and I tap you. Now we know you can't play a defensive card against that, and now the big dude hits you for 30, right? And you can't stop it. So a lot of good tactics there. Great cinema with abilities like Hypnotic Gaze. I sucked in his dwarf and then ate him for breakfast. It was awesome. Keeps it lively. Keeps it fast. The only negatives really are what Craig mentioned. The rule book, somehow, I mean, it doesn't feel like it's badly written, but we've all missed rules out of it, so something's not quite right. I love the art in the cards too, but I agree with Craig. The cards are flimsy, and if you leave them in the box the way they're designed to be stored, the box has got great box control, but the way the cards go in there, they tend to warp. I always pull them out warped. So they're not as thick as I'd like them to be. But I wish there was Fantasy Flight Dials too, as Angelo mentioned. But otherwise, it's great. I can't argue with the value, and I love playing with my kids. They seem to really like the pre-paints. They like the models. They like the rules. You can get them in them. And I'm surprisingly enjoying it in my gaming group. So I think it's a win-win, and I like the rating you guys gave it. I think this is a 4+ with a +1 for anybody who's a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, the adventure game system, either of those, because the value then adds to the point where it's just silly not to buy these boxes. And you get a nice little game on the side. So there you go. So I'm going to say it's 4+, 3+. And that is Dungeon Command. And Angelo, thank you so much for joining us today in the D6 Generation. I really appreciate it.
I love coming back. Thank you for the invite, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at Myriad Games in a couple of weeks.
Now,
awesome.
If people are traveling and they're driving late in the night, and they see they need a place to stop, and they see the little lantern on at La Quinta, there's a special code they can give La Quinta to get extra little saving, isn't there?
There is the D6G gets you a discount. You can book it on LQ.com. And remember, we are gamer friendly.
That's right, gamer friendly.
That's right.
Well, thanks, Angelo. I hope to see you again on the show real soon.
Thanks guys.
After our game reviews, you'll feel like you played the game 100 times. After our interviews, you'll feel like you've known some of the biggest names in the gaming industry for years. After a single episode, you'll feel like the time just flew by. And once the headache clears, you'll know you'll never need another gaming podcast again.
The D6 Generation, born to game.
You know, Craig, our friends at Geek Nation Tours, this is their second year they're doing the big Gen Con tour. And
exciting.
We had such a fun time last year with all of our listeners and other folks we met who were on the tour at the very exclusive, night before dinner there on Wednesday night before Gen Con gets hopping. Very exclusive little event. And folks, Craig and I will be there. And the guys from the Dice Tower podcast will be there, as well as other great folks from the industry. You get to meet them in a very intimate setting, just a few, the tour folks, 18 or 20 of you, whatever, plus us. And it's a lot of fun. And it's really important if you want to go on the Gen Con tour, and I highly recommend you do it. It's just a great time. It's going to be a chance to play Star Wars, the RPG with Ross Watson. Going to be a great chance to have the Millennium Falcon experience, as well as get into with the Kentucky Fried Gamers and all that great stuff going on there. And if you're not a local, it's a really great way to get involved with the whole gaming scene in Indianapolis. You really want to make sure you register quickly because time is running out. They need to lock in the hotel rooms in April. And so they're going to have to close the booking down on April 15th. That's only a couple weeks away. We're recording this literally on April 1st. And this is not a April Fool's joke. This is for real.
This is it.
Really, I can't stress enough. If you want to go on the awesome Gen Con tour, call Terrace now and get hooked up. Go to geeknationtours.com and get hooked up by April 15th. Otherwise, it'll be very unlikely to get on the Gen Con tour.
Snapping your fingers again, going foiled again.
I know. So that's definitely a must-do. Now, Craig, what other ones are you excited about right now?
The next big one that Terrace is all excited about, of course, is the Geek Nation Tours Miniatures in the UK Scotland edition.
Oh yeah, that sounds cool.
14, the Scottish Highlands. And he's just coming up with the description now. So Scotland being one of my favorite all-time places on the planet. I just can't imagine playing games on that bus, going through the Highlands, all the way up to Edinburgh, which of course is the giant castle that Hogwarts was based on, loosely.
Nice. Yeah, loosely.
So all kinds of awesome stuff. Go over to geeknationtours.com, check out all the new cool stuff. But we would like to see you particularly on that Gen Con tour this year. And of course, if you're going to be at it's far too late to sign up for the Adepticon tour. But if you're on the Adepticon tour, then I will be seeing you in Chicago. And no matter what tour you're signing up for, if you heard it from us, let Terrace know, and we will get you one of our exclusive stitched patches with Velcro.
Yes, with Velcro. That's geeknationtours.com.
This edition of Jever Notice is brought to you by 2 bicycle playing card decks with great game card art. Gangsters from Nothing Personal and 16-bit art from Pixel Lincoln, now on Kickstarter. Did you ever notice how some folks are completely incapable of surviving any sort of anticipation? For instance, these are the folks that read the last page of a book. They just flip to the very end and they read the last page. Is that you? Is that you? I don't get it. Or what about they flip to the end of the last page of a comic book, or they read the synopsis of a TV episode before it airs. They're just completely constitutionally incapable of waiting for the payoff. And that is so alien to me that I can't even begin to understand where they're coming from or explain how bizarre it seems to me, because that is really one of the main things that makes entertainment and the things that I like about entertainment worthwhile, is that big, huge payoff at the end. And if I know what's coming, then that is completely and totally ruined for me, and I just don't get it. Because of that, it is extremely important to me that folks not spoil things for me. I get really upset when somebody accidentally drops the ball and says, oh, hey, what did you think about Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader's his dad? To try to give you an example that wouldn't spoil anything for anybody else. And it's just a question of, for me, the enjoyment that I get from spending all of that time and effort on reading or on watching a movie or TV or whatever. That's why I watch it. And so when I learn or am reminded that I spoiled something for somebody, it really bothers me. And so when I got an email from listener Gideon, I just didn't know what to do or what to think. I guess in episode 105, which is a while ago, so over a year ago, right? Or maybe up to, maybe month 12, 24. No, not quite a year ago. Apparently I spoiled one of the big elements in the Game of Thrones, the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, and I'm sure you guys will remember that I did that. Those of you who do, I did not remember that I did that, and I felt terrible when he let me know that I had done that for him, and he had just reached episode 105, and there I was talking about somebody who does something at some point, and I felt awful, and I feel awful right now talking about it, and I wanted to apologize again. I apologized to him on the email, and Gideon, I don't know what was going through my head. I'm sure I felt awful when it happened, although not awful enough to remember. And I can't even begin to express how terrible I feel because of how important those things are to me. And that's why we try to keep our spoiler-rich things, like fully labeled spoiler rich, I guess. And so I just wanted to say that I'm sorry and apologize profusely for that. And to ask you, nary, to beg you, if you're the person out there who is flipping to the last page of a book or reading the IMDb page of a movie you haven't seen yet for the full synopsis, do yourself a favor and try to deal with the anticipation. I mean, I know it's torturous sometimes. I know it's a struggle. It's a struggle for all of us, even those of us who enjoy that big payoff at the end. You know, everybody wants to know what's going on. They want to know as quickly as possible what's going to happen. But seriously, if you wait until the end and you get the big payoff, it's so much more satisfying. I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people who don't enjoy that, and that would be, as I said before, very strange to me. But it's possible. I mean, what do you guys think? Go to Daka and tell us what you think, or tell me what you think. If I'm wrong, am I wrong? I don't know. And I wanted to thank everybody again for their help with the Kickstarter. Obviously, it was a big success. Very happy, very excited to be working on that. The second issue of the comic book just went to the printer. I just proofed the last few pages of it over the last couple days. That was very exciting for me. I think I'm getting better. The artist is getting better. We're getting better at working together, and hopefully it'll be even smoother this episode or this issue. So that's cool. I wanted to give yet another shout out, one more shout out to all the folks who are helping so much with our big game night, board game night. That's Weird and Conquistador and Stronghold Games, and Game Salute is coming on strong. And now we've actually got Colby Dolch from Plaid Hat Games is going to be sending a bunch of stuff too. And we're hoping for a few more people to jump on the bandwagon. So again, a big hearty thanks to all those folks. And if you're at all going to be in the Chicago area, please swing on by. And if you're going to be at Adepticon, for the love of all that is holy on God's green earth this day after Easter, stay through Sunday night and check it out and come and hang out with us or with me. And there'll be at least one of the guys from the Nerd Herders podcast. Matt is going to be there, trying to get Dave to show up. Don't know yet if he's going to be able to pull it off, but hoping that I know that Matt's going to be there because he's my ride. So if he's not there, I'm not there. So there we go. But yeah, you'll get a chance to play games, win a bunch of games. I mean, a bunch of games. It should be a great time. We're going to be doing it longer than last year, so it's going to be more fun that way. And really just an awesome opportunity to hang out, have fun. The Geek Nation Tours folks will be there, and it'll just be a blast. So if you're going to be at Adepticon, please try to stretch it that one extra day. I know it means you're probably going to have to go home on Monday. That's what I have to do. But it's worth it. Or at least I think it's worth it. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on dakadaka.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Craig, can you give me a little noise there?
Yes, I can give you levels to all the girls I've loved before.
That's lovely. That is just lovely.
Travel in and out my door.
Angelo, can you give me a little noise there?
Certainly. A horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?" What a bunch.
Nice.